Chapter 46 Borderland Flowing Snake Town. Chapter 46 Borderland Flowing Snake Town. This youth, kicked by Emo, flew backward and crashed onto a trash can. The way that he sat there would make people think he sat there himself, if not for his bleeding nose and mouth. Emo's move immediately alerted everyone. Even that man who had just finished his call turned around. As soon as he turned around, he saw the thief behind him. However, when that thief saw that the middle-aged man noticed him, he didn't look worried at all. Instead, he packed away the sharp knife hidden between his fingers and turned, as two other men surrounded Emo with him. Other than the youth kicked into the trash can, there were actually 4 of them. "Punk, you're asking to die! Go and disable him!" Another youth with a knife yelled in rage as he charged towards Emo. The other 2 didn't hesitate to charge at Emo as well. Only the one sitting on the trash can with his face still bleeding was completely terrorized. Of course, he had understood what had happened to him. A kick on his face from a young man actually sent him flying over and sitting on the trash can. He didn't even dare to think about this. It was as though he was forced to stand up as he realized that if Emo had kicked him in the chest instead and made him fly, he would probably not be as terrified as he was right now. He recognized that this youth wasn't someone they could mess with and wanted to tell his mates to stop, but they had already charged up. The middle-aged man also seemed to understand that this young man probably saw the thieves trying to steal his wallet, and was targeted by the thief's partners in crime instead. Although he wanted to help, he didn't know any martial arts, and just when he was about to call the police, a scene that he could not believe happened once again before his eyes. That young man kicked again and sent flying the man with the knife, who didn't even understand how his knife was pierced into his own leg. This wasn't all. The place where the man flew was right on the head of the man sitting in the trash can. Then, the youth jumped up and did a roundhouse kick, which sent the other 2 youth, including the one that tried to steal his wallet, flying. 2 cracks resounded. It wasn't immediately known what broke until 2 of the thieves yelled out in pain and crumbled on top of the trash can. The 4 formed a human pile which made the trash can crumbling onto the ground, making a loud banging sound. The middle-aged man gasped a breath of cold air. If he hadn't seen Emo's movements with his own eyes and saw it on video instead, he would have thought this was synthesized by computer. This was almost like shooting a movie. Scum! Emo left, and finally, the people watching finally came back to themselves. They looked at the 4 thieves laying on the ground and started clapping. These thieves were barely able to move, but they seemed to know that things would get troublesome if the police came, so they struggled to sit up. They didn't care about the blood on them as they held each other and walked out. "Friend, please wait up. Thank you for what happened just then." The middle-aged man chased Emo and called out to him in gratitude. Emo waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, I didn't help you just for your sake. Those scum picked a fight with me." After finishing his sentence, he was about to leave once again. "My name is Joaigua, and I would like to invite you to a dinner to compensate you. Are you willing to come, friend?" Seeing that Emo was so powerful, Joaigua immediately had some thoughts. Not interested. Emo was only staying in Xianshan City for 1 night. This man invited him to dinner for a reason, but what thing was more important than him going to Guilin and cultivate? Seeing that Emo was going to leave, Joaigua was getting anxious. He hurriedly went up to him and said, "It's like this, I just need you to accompany me to Guilin, and furthermore, you can name any price you want." In Joaigua's opinion, Emo didn't dress like a wealthy person, so money should be a good motivator to him. However, he didn't know that if Emo didn't want to go to Guilin himself, he wouldn't be able to motivate him even with 1 million since Emo still had 50,000 on him. Guilin? Emo stopped his steps. The place he wanted to go happened to be Guilin. If it was along the way and he had money to earn, he wouldn't mind. However, if it was something dangerous like what he did with Wendong, then he wouldn't want to do it. Although he wasn't scared, he didn't want to become a henchman every time he met someone. He had an identity now anyways, he wasn't scared that he couldn't buy a plane ticket. "Fine, let's go talk." Emo thought that he couldn't leave tonight anyway, so he might as well have a talk with him. The 2 found a quiet cafeteria and sat down. Shuaigua was straightforward and said, "Actually, something urgent came up which is forcing me to go to Guilin. I have to meet up with the gang leader at the Flowing Snake Town to exchange some things. However, Flowing Snake is further down than Guilin, and that place is too chaotic. Originally, I was waiting here for someone to go with me. But friend, you are so much stronger than him, so if you are willing to come with me to Guilin, you can name any price. In fact, Flowing Snake is no longer a part of Guilin. I need to take a few hours car ride to reach Flowing Snake after I get off the plane at Guilin Airport. You know that there are no problems in flying straight from Xianshan to Guilin. However, Flowing Snake is close to the borders of a few countries and is the place where some ethnic minorities live. I said that the public security is chaotic there, but in fact, there is no public security at all." After Shuaigua had finished, he looked at Emo filled with hope. There was one sentence that he omitted, which was that Flowing Snake was the place where the fugitives and mercenaries of different countries gathered at, and such things as killings and fighting occurred every day. Emo frowned as he barely knew anything about Guilin. He heard that Guilin was a borderline city, so if the Song family discovered him, he could go on the other side of the border at any time. He really hadn't heard of the place closer to the border that Shuaigua talked about. As for whether or not it was chaotic, he didn't care at all. After thinking for a while, Emo said, "In fact, I was also planning to go to Guilin, as I want to find an opportunity to develop in that place. However, it will be my first time going there. I heard you saying that Flowing Snake is closer to the border, so I think I will have a greater chance of development going in this town instead. As for the payment, I don't need it. If you have some familiar places at Flowing Snake, then keep one in mind for me." After hearing Emo, Shuaigua hurriedly shook his hand. "Don't ever go to Flowing Snake to develop. If you want to do business, you should stay at Guilin. I have some contacts in Guilin, and I also have a house there that I don't need and could simply give to you. In my case, the only reason for me to go to Flowing Snake is that I don't have any other choice. If I had, I would definitely not go there." Emo smiled faintly and said, "Where there are dangers, there are opportunities. I will go to Flowing Snake." Seeing that Emo had made up his mind, Shuaigua didn't try to persuade him anymore. After all, Emo was a master. Finally, he said, "No problem, I should be able to find a place in Flowing Snake." Shuaigua understood Emo's meaning. He had heard of this place before. Although it was a wicked city, it was easy to do things as long as you paved your way with money first. Emo nodded and said, "The business I do is a bit illegal. The further away it is, the better." Shuaigua opened his mouth but eventually didn't say anything. From his many years of experience in the business industry, Emo didn't seem like those cunning and sly people. However, the way he talked sounded like he wanted to join gangs. Chapter 47, So That's It. Chapter 47, So That's It. Ninghai University. Yunbing was feeling irritated these few days. She tried to see if she could find Emo, but she hadn't seen him for a long time. Initially, although Emo didn't go to her class often, she could still often see him going to the library, yet these last few days, she hadn't even seen his shadow. Originally, she thought that after Emo had disappeared, she would be able to calm down and keep doing what she wanted. However, she was constantly reminded of the fact that Jing Wenqiao and her schoolmate being beaten until they became mentally disabled was related to her. She wanted to ask Emo about the event, but his attitude was horrible at the time. He had even wanted to throw her into the lake. That bastard! She suspected that not only he had looked at her body, but he might have even touched it, seeing how cocky he was to her. Thinking about this, Yunbing immediately felt furious and started wondering if perhaps Ninghai was no longer suitable for her, which would force her to go back to Beijing. After thinking about leaving Ninghai for a while, Yunbing actually gasped a sigh of relief and thought that she should have left long ago. The first thing Yunbing did when she returned to her home wasn't to cook like she used to but pack her stuff. After she had completely packed her things, she started cleaning the place and found an SD card in her room. Yunbing picked up the 8GB SD card near the corner and felt confused, as she had never used SD cards. However, she immediately thought of the camera that she had found, smashed to pieces that day after Emo left. However, all the things inside it were broken, and since she didn't know what had happened, she didn't bother looking too much into it. But now, she found a storage disk and immediately thought that it should be the camera's, the one that she couldn't find when she had woken up and saw the mess that was left that day. It looked like this was exactly the one she had been looking for, but she didn't expect it to be in the corner of the room. If she wasn't tidying the house today, she actually wouldn't have found it. Yunbing opened up her laptop and put the SD card in. She found only one video file and opened it with the embedded player. Immediately, the screen showed an image and voices could be heard. "Young Master Chiao, I am ready." It was the voice of her schoolmate who drugged her. "Start when I go on this woman. Remember to film it clearly and capture all the specifics, especially when she moans. I want all of it. I don't believe that she won't cooperate after all that." The image showed Jin Wenqiao. Watching the video, Yunbing was literally so angry that she was shaking. What made her more embarrassed and outraged at the same time was that she was the one to pull apart her own clothes, and she immediately understood what happened. It should have been from the drink she had drunk that day, which had an aphrodisiac in it. On the screen, her face was ruby red, her eyes were filled with lust, and she had pulled off the clothes in front of her chest. This showed just how potent the drug was. Just as Yunbing didn't know what to do anymore, the door in the screen was kicked open. Yemo, who had his face covered, came in. When Yunbing saw to this part, she was finally relieved and had already a subtle understanding of what had happened. "Friend, what do you want to do? If you just want money, we don't need to cross paths, and we can let you play after we finish enjoying ourselves. This is a high-quality woman." Jin Wenqiao was wary of Yemo as he was talking. At the same time, he was putting back on the clothes he was about to take off. "Human scum!" Yemo just spoke 2 words and kicked Jin Wenqiao. The following scene was very blurry. Then she saw her schoolmate fight with Yemo. It seemed to be very brief, and the video just stopped there. Afterward was an entirely black screen. Although the content of the video was limited, from what she had gathered so far, Yunbing had already guessed a few things. It should be that Yemo saw these people abduct her and followed them, then he beat them up in her home. Yemo had broken the door to save her, but as for how he eventually had dealt with the effects of the drug, Yunbing wasn't completely certain. However, she knew that Yemo didn't do anything more physical to harass her. No wonder the second morning, those two became mentally disabled and were thrown on the square. It was Yemo who did it! Yunbing suddenly stood up as she realized that she had wronged Yemo, who saved her life. If it weren't for Yemo, what would the results have been? Yunbing didn't dare to imagine. Perhaps there was no other way out than suicide. This Jin Wenqiao was so evil. However, she had no idea when she got on his bad side. Yunbing thought again and realized now wasn't the time to care about other people's things. She should be trying to contact Yemo. He saved her, yet she repaid his benevolence with malfeasance. Yunbing suddenly felt embarrassed. However, she was a very grateful person. Since she was wrong, she knew that she should immediately find Yemo and apologize, then thank him for saving her life. Why didn't Yemo tell me the truth? However, Yunbing understood very quickly. That day when Yemo was just wiping his face, she had woken up for barely a moment and fainted again, and perhaps Yemo didn't even realize it. Or maybe, since this thing involved the vice mayor's son, he might have been scared that she might be burdened mentally or reveal something and end up being the one to suffer. Besides, with her impression of Yemo, would she believe him even if he had said it? Thank you, Yemo. She suddenly felt that he didn't seem so annoying. When a person's mentality changed, the person's views of someone else might change too. When she was tidying the room, she still felt that Yemo was the most detestable person, yet now, she felt he was quite handsome. No, I must apologize in front of his face, she thought. He had saved her life, and some things couldn't be resolved even with death. Even if she killed herself for this, it would only ruin her reputation. Should I find Yemo? But I hadn't seen him for a long time. I know, I will go to class tomorrow and ask if someone knows where Emo is. In today's English class, what made all the students in the class drop their glasses was that the usual cold, merciless Bing actually asked about Emo whereabouts. After class, Yun Bing didn't leave and asked on the podium. Emo hasn't been here for a long time. Do you guys know where he went? Is there anyone among you that can contact him? Silence, a long silence. When at last even Yun Bing didn't know what to do, finally a student answered. Emo is the closest with Shirshio. However, Shirshio hasn't come for a long time either. There is also Sumei who knows Emo. I saw them talk last time at the library. After Yun Bing had left, the classroom erupted again. Emo not only knew an incredibly breathtaking woman who even came for him multiple times. Now, even merciless Bing had asked about him. This Emo really was almighty. Sumei was a celebrity in Ninghai University and, at the same time, she was also a student of Yun Bing, so of course she knew her. When Sumei heard Yun Bing asking her about Emo, she was stunned at first but soon returned to her composure as she said, Mrs. Yun, Emo is a wicked man down to the root. You don't need to be angry at him. Even my cousin almost fell for his trap. This person really knows how to disguise himself. Yun Bing was astonished for a moment and thought, why would I be angry with Emo when I'm trying so hard to show my gratitude? However, she didn't rebuke Sumei. After all, that was her point of view, and she had her own. Wasn't she also a hater of Emo before? Sumei, actually, I have something urgent for Emo, Yun Bing said helplessly. Something urgent? It seemed that Mrs. Yun really had something urgent. As she thought of her words, Sumei was immediately reminded of that day when Yun Bing wanted to slap Emo in anger. She subconsciously looked at Yun Bing's stomach and thought, wasn't Emo impotent? Did he also create a problem there? Of course, Yun Bing didn't know Sumei's dirty mind and asked worriedly again. Do you know where he is? Sumei returned to herself and shook her head. I don't know, but my cousin Su Jinwen might know. Why don't you ask her? Chapter 48, Robber Stopping You in the Tracks. Chapter 48, Robber Stopping You in the Tracks. Su Jinwen felt the bracelet on her wrist, and suddenly, she regretted giving 3 beads to Ning Qingxue. She felt that she shouldn't have listened to Sumei's words and changed her opinion of Emo. Even if that day she saw that teacher saying awful things about Emo with her own eyes, it didn't necessarily mean that it was Emo's fault. Perhaps this teacher was wrong. Besides, even if it was Emo's fault, it didn't have anything to do with her, so she wouldn't be affected. If similar things were to happen again, she would rather believe Emo. After all, she knew Emo, but she didn't know this teacher. You know one's face, but you don't know one's heart. On the surface, the teacher looked cold, but it didn't mean she was actually like this. She believed that Emo wasn't like what the teacher and Sumei said about him. However, she already gave the 3 beads to Ning Qingxue, and she couldn't really ask them back. She could only blame Ning Qingxue for picking the perfect time to ask for it. If it had been a while since her meeting with Yun Bing, perhaps even a single day, she would have changed her mind. Luckily, she only gave 3 beads to Ning Qingxue. If she gave her the whole thing, she would probably be regretting so much more now. After all, Emo gave this to her. Although it wasn't worth much, it was the only one out of all her presents that were handmade by the person himself. She wanted to visit Emo but didn't know where he was. Even Ning Qingxue didn't know. Li Mumei didn't either, but she still wanted to ask, just in case. Su Jinwen took out her phone and wanted to call Li Mumei to ask if she knew where Emo was, but suddenly, her phone rang. The call was actually made by that teacher, Yun Bing, and she knew that only Sumei could have given her number. After arranging to see each other, Yun Bing came very quickly and saw Su Jinwen within half an hour. Hearing Yun Bing's intentions, Su Jinwen was very surprised. What? You want to see Emo? Why? The last time I asked you about him, you said that he was a... Su Jinwen didn't finish her sentence, but her meaning was very clear. Since you are already talking about Emo like that, why do you still want to see him? However, Su Jinwen just didn't want to say it in front of Yun Bing. After all, they weren't familiar with each other. Although she really wanted to see Emo, it didn't mean that she wanted to take Yunbing with her. Sorry, I misunderstood him last time. I want to see him so I can apologize to him. Yunbing was very straightforward. As soon as Su Jinwen heard what she said, her heart felt a bit lighter as she was right about Emo. However, she disliked people like Yunbing more who didn't even figure out what happened before saying this and that about someone. This type of woman was very annoying. It was right for her to apologize after she had said terrible things about Emo, and she even wanted to see Emo herself now. After a short call with Li Mume, Su Jinwen knew that there was still no news of Emo. It was as though he had just suddenly vanished without leaving a trace. What? Where did Emo go? Yunbing was very disappointed. She even suspected that Su Jinwen disliked her and didn't want her to know where Emo went. But looking at Su Jinwen's expression, she knew that Su Jinwen wasn't lying to her. Emo moved to Zhuaigua's hotel and went on the plane at 8 a.m. the following day. Fortunately, he didn't even need to worry about the plane tickets since Zhuaigua had it all figured out. 2 hours later, the plane stopped at Guilin City Airport, and nothing troublesome happened on the way. It appeared that Zhuaigua was more reliable than that Wendong. Wendong promised Emo there would be nothing, but in the end, if Emo wasn't in the second stage of qi gathering and was particularly careful, he might have lost his life there. If that woman lost her life, so be it, but he, Emo, was innocent. It wasn't worth for him to lose his life for $50,000. Emo, we've arrived at Guilin Airport now, and someone will pick us up soon. My plan is to go straight to Flowing Snake so we can avoid sleeping one night at Guilin and any unnecessary trouble. Zhuaigua seemed to want to get it done immediately so he could leave this damned place as fast as possible. He didn't want to stay a moment longer, but this situation was exactly what Emo wanted. He didn't want to waste time on these unnecessary things either. After the two had walked out of the airport, an Audi car drove over. The driver was a relatively innocent-looking youth. When he saw Zhuaigua, he respectfully called him boss. This is my chauffeur Xiao Yu, he's also my employee. Although he doesn't practice martial arts, he had been a few times to Flowing Snake and is relatively familiar with the place. Zhuaigua introduced him casually. Emo glanced at the youth and knew that he only looked fairly strong but didn't learn any martial arts. Although this young chauffeur didn't talk much, his driving was steady yet fast. After leaving Guilin for 2 hours, the car left from the decent road to the steep mountain ones. It was another 2 hours before the roads finally got better, but at this point, there wasn't even a village to be seen around. It was all barren wilderness. Emo didn't know why Zhuaigua came here, but this place was indeed far off. No wonder he needed someone to come with him. However, he really liked it here. In some sense, he was running for his life, and this place was the best for him to cultivate and hide. A colossal organization like the Song family wasn't something that Emo could mess with at this point. The car went on for another 10 minutes and entered a big valley. As soon as the car went in, Emo heard some sound from behind. He opened the window to look back and saw that the way they came from had been blocked. Zhuaigua and the chauffeur also noticed this situation. Zhuaigua's face immediately became awful, but the driver seemed indifferent. He looked at Zhuaigua once and said, "Boss, you just need to give them some money, but don't worry, these people usually only come for money." Zhuaigua nodded, and after the chauffeur had driven the car another 100 meters, they were stopped, and it appeared that it wasn't just their car, but also another Mercedes that was also stopped. "Get out! All of you, get out!" A bulky man wearing weird clothes and a megaphone in his hand yelled at them. He had 2 people by his side carrying a gun each, but they were incomparable with Wendong's AK. Emo even suspected that even if they fired at him before he had noticed, he would still be able to dodge it. 2 people got off the Mercedes. There were one tall man and a tall-figured woman. The man was handsome-looking and was a bit bulky. His clothes were obviously from famous brands. Although Emo didn't care about brands, he still knew some of them. Unexpectedly, the man was pale-faced, as if something like this happening to him was actually surprising. The woman turned her head and looked at Emo's Audi, confused. This woman had a graceful temperament. Her perfectly fitted jeans complemented her long legs and full bottom, making it very eye-attracting. She had some faint makeup on her face, and half a silver necklace showing at her snow-white neck made her seem very sophisticated. Although she wasn't as pretty as Su Jingwen and Ning Qingxue, her long hair with her temperament gave her a unique flavor. The woman obviously had a special relationship with the handsome man as she was standing close behind the man, and although her face looked worried, she wasn't as scared as the man. Chapter 49, Slow-Paced Walk. Chapter 49, Slow-Paced Walk. Shuo Aigua had already gotten off, so did Yemo and the chauffeur Xiao Yu. Yemo looked around. Other than the man calling out to them and the two with the guns beside him, there were another two behind them that blocked their path. Including two more at the front blocking them, there was a total of 7 people, of which 6 were armed with guns. "Give us $50,000, and you may leave," the man with the megaphone said. "Wasn't it 10,000 before? Why is it suddenly 50,000 now?" Xiao Yu seemed to know the situation and asked. "What? Talk more sh*t, and I'll kill you. I decide on how much money we take." The man who stopped the BMW heard Xiao Yu's words and waved his gun, reproaching him arrogantly. Okay, I have the money. $50,000, I'll give it to you immediately." The youth had a pale face and acted immediately, turning around and took 50,000 from his car. The man in front took the money and waved his hand. "You can go." The tall youth immediately got in the car and said, "Xiao Lei, let's hurry and leave, don't go to Flowing Snake, we should go back immediately." The woman called Xiao Lei looked at Yemo and the 2 other people with him, and said worriedly, "They." She barely said 2 words but was immediately interrupted by the youth. "They are driving such a good car, they definitely will have the money, we don't need to worry." Just as he was speaking, he was also interrupted. "Punk, you can leave by yourself. We'll take her for a few days. You can come and pick her up later. You woman, come over here." The man with the gun spoke and pointed at the tall girl Xiao Lei. Hearing the man's words and his finger that was pointing at her, her face immediately went pale. I already gave the money to you, please let us go." When the tall youth heard that they wanted him to leave Xiao Lei behind, his face that had just recovered some color, turned pale and ugly once again. "I will count from 5. If you still stay here, then I won't be so nice anymore." The man who said that the girl was to stay, interrupted the young man's words and said coldly while raising his gun. Then, he started counting. "Wait, I'll leave." The youth suddenly charged toward his Mercedes. He left behind a small bag and quickly ignited the engine. Then he turned his vehicle and actually started to drive back on his own. He was so fast that, at this moment, the man with the gun had only counted backward to 4. Luckily, this area was open, otherwise it would have been really hard for the young man to turn with his speed. The robbers kept their word and, seeing how this man fled, they all laughed as they opened up a way for him to pass instead. The woman called Xiao Lei was still here and had a paler complexion. Her lips were trembling, but she still couldn't say anything for a long time. She only kept moving back until she retreated to Yemo's car. When Xiao Yu talked about women, he subconsciously looked at Xiao Lei and didn't continue talking. Everyone knew what he was thinking. "Why did a woman like you come here?" Yemo nodded and said, "Boss Shua, leave this to me, you 3 get on the car first." F***ck, wasting our time, Yang Pai, kill one first since these people. The only one without a gun, the one holding a megaphone in his hands, saw Yemo and them talking for too long and was getting impatient. Bang! Before the man had even finished speaking, the man beside him fired his gun. Obviously, he was thinking the same thing as the man with the megaphone. Unfortunately, his target was Yemo. At the same time he fired his gun, Yemo had jumped up and kicked him right in the face. The man didn't even make a noise before collapsing. The 2 people beside him, including the one holding the megaphone, also collapsed, and yet Yemo wasn't even hurt. Yemo kicked 3 people consecutively, and before he even dropped to the ground, he copied Wendong's way and kicked on the hilt of the 2 guns which flew out and went over Zhuo Aigua's head. Then, There were another two deep sounds as the two men behind Zhuo Aigua were struck in the head by the guns Yemo kicked out and fainted. The two remaining men quickly reacted and raised their weapons to shoot. Bang! Bang! There were two more gunshots. There was another crack, and only then did Zhuo Aigua and the others saw what happened despite their fear. Yemo was holding up their wrists, which made the guns shooting into the air, and the cracking sound was probably Yemo breaking their wrists. Yemo didn't want to kill people in front of a journalist in case this woman would spread the word everywhere. That's why he didn't use the metal nails, otherwise he could have solved the problem with a few nails even quicker. Zhuo Aigua stared at Yemo in shock. He knew that Yemo was strong but didn't think of him to be this competent. He seemed to have dodged the first bullet before attacking, and then faced 6 guns like he was having a stroll. He then casually proceeded to beat them down. This wasn't a fight, this was a show. The driver also opened wide his mouth. He didn't even dare to believe that this innocuous-looking young man who came with his boss was this strong. After Xiao Lei's initial shock, she immediately watched the fight with fascination. This was her first time meeting someone with such refined martial arts, which was completely like something made in the action movies. It was a pity, however, that she wasn't able to film it. She had already forgotten the situation she was in not long ago. But then, she remembered what had happened and couldn't help but to feel grateful toward Yemo. If he didn't intervene, she would probably have been living a life that was better dead. It seemed that she couldn't be so impulsive anymore. Thinking about Wang Qianjun who had run away before, she sighed to herself. Chapter 50. Chaotic Flowing Snake. Chapter 50. Chaotic Flowing Snake. After Yemo had knocked the last opponent out, he turned to the driver and said, "Come over and help me out with a small favor. Drag these scum with me. I'll help you." Xiao Lei rushed up, her face still red. Apparently, her excitement hadn't died down. It was as though she met the legendary Prince on a white stallion that suddenly came down to rescue her. It was like a dream, and things happened too fast. Zhuo Aigua had already calmed down. He silently rejoiced about his correct decision and further made up his mind that he was to establish a good connection with Yemo no matter what. He might be the student of some legendary ancient martial arts master for all he knew. Although he heard that there were some ancient martial arts families in Beijing, these families were usually very mysterious and wouldn't come out into the normal world, nor would they become athletes either. However, from what he knew, some families would select a few elite members to go into the special departments of the country. These departments only served the country, and even some leaders couldn't have the privilege of being protected by these people. Yemo looked curiously at Xiao Lei, who ran over excitedly, and shook his head speechlessly. This woman's mood changed so fast. He didn't talk to her, and just carried 2 unconscious thugs into the forest. The chauffeur Xiao Yu also dragged 2 people and followed him. Yemo dumped the 2 in the woods and carried over another 2. Xiao Lei saw that Yemo ignored her and was a bit annoyed. But even when she used all her might, she couldn't keep up with Yemo while dragging someone. At last, Xiao Yu helped her pull that one away. Seeing that all 7 of them had been brought here, Yemo told Xiao Yu, "You guys go in the car and wait for me a bit, I'll come over soon." After Xiao Yu had left, Yemo kicked one of them awake. These people, mostly from Yu, were blocking the roads and robbing its passers-by. After he had kicked all of them awake, Yemo asked where their base was and found out that it was actually in a private manor not far away from Flowing Snake Town. Also, it was pretty much as Xiao Yu said. There were indeed 13 people before, but now, there was just 7 of them remaining. At first, Yemo had planned to destroy their base when he would reach to Flowing Snake, as he didn't like to leave things unfinished, but since there was no one left, he didn't plan on going anymore. Yemo dumped all of their bodies into the mountain stream. He had only found some currency on these people, but Yemo didn't take a single one. To him, this money was worth as much as money for the dead, perhaps even less. He didn't understand how these people would be so poor when they robbed all day. Maybe they just didn't carry the valuable things with them and left everything at their hideout. When Yemo returned to the mountain road, Xiao Yu and Zhuo Aigua had cleared out the obstacles. The 3 had already got into the car and were waiting for him. Unexpectedly, No one asked about where the thugs went after he got inside the car. I can't take this money, you drove off the thugs, so you keep it. Xiaolei gave the $50,000 Zhua Aigua had offered her to Yemo. Yemo pushed it aside and said, No need, you can keep the money. I'm hired by Boss Zhua, and he's already paying for my salary. Besides, your friend ditched you, so take that as his compensation. Humph, I don't know him, that animal. Xiaolei still wanted to say something, but Yemo just told Xiao Yu to start driving. Mr. Yi, we are really lucky to have you with us this time. If it weren't for you, we would have really been in trouble this time. Zhua Aigua hurriedly expressed his gratitude to Yemo. Zhua Aigua was telling the truth. If he hadn't met Xiaolei, he would have only lost tens of thousands of dollars. However, after meeting her, Zhua Aigua's character wouldn't allow him to be a bystander, as she was taken away, and if any conflict had occurred, the results would have been disastrous. Yemo waved his hands and said, Boss Zhua, you are too polite, this was nothing. Besides, this is what we agreed upon at the beginning, otherwise, what would be the point of hiring me? Hearing Yemo's words, Zhua Aigua was in a good mood and said, I'm a few years older, if you don't mind, Mr. Yi, just call me Brother Zhua, and I'll just call you Brother Yi. This sounds great. Yemo nodded in approval. Zhua Aigua was not a bad person, someone who was worth connecting to. When Xiaolei asked for Yemo's name from Zhua Aigua, she felt this name was a bit familiar, as though she heard it somewhere before, but just couldn't recall it for the moment. Journalist Xiao, although Flowing Snake is a borderline town, it is one of the most chaotic places in the region, and it's even the boundary between 3 countries. Why would you come here? Zhua Aigua turned his head and asked. Xiaolei's thought process was interrupted and could only respond helplessly. It's because I heard that the tourists who come to Guilin would disappear near the famous tourist spots, so I wanted to come here and interview a few people. After coming here, I found out that most people had gone missing after going to Flowing Snake, so now, I wanted to go there to see for myself. If I didn't encounter you guys, I really don't know what would have happened. I'm really grateful. Yemo was laughing to himself. This female journalist was too naive. She was too used to living in big cities that she thought if she just took out her journalist license, those thugs would just surrender. He was literally speechless. Zhua Aigua also had no idea what to say. He knew Xiaolei, she was a famous journalist that just rose to fame over the past couple of years. However, he wasn't familiar with her, so he couldn't point fingers in front of her face. Xiaolei saw these people's complexions and understood how they thought, but she couldn't really rebuke them as she realized how naive she was. When she first wanted to come to Guilin, Wang Qianjun wanted to go with her no matter what, so he accompanied her all the way to Guilin and even got a BMW in Guilin City to drive her to Flowing Snake. Wang Qianjun's handsome appearance did transmit people a good feeling, and she had a good feeling towards him as well. It was probably not long before she would have agreed to become his girlfriend. However, in a time of crisis, Xiaolei understood that a handsome appearance was completely irrelevant to other things. Yemo didn't talk anymore, he only looked around and enjoyed the sight. There were wild forests everywhere and very little people, which was perfect for his cultivation, and even if the Song family chased him here, he would have a way to escape. Yemo didn't think he was an invincible being right now, and he knew that there were a lot of people stronger than him right now. Besides, even modern firearms weren't something he could defend against with his current powers. Zhua Aigua and Xiaolei, meanwhile, were engaged in a heated conversation. However, Xiaolei glanced at Yemo from time to time, yet, seeing that Yemo didn't have the urge to talk and seemed to be meditating, she dismissed the thought of talking to him. Half an hour later, the Audi drove into a town, of which half was heavily fortified and had the appearance of a fortress. This is Flowing Snake. We have to do a few things first, so we can only leave tomorrow. Journalist Xiao, how about you? Are you coming with us or moving on your own? After the car had gone into Flowing Snake, Zhua Aigua looked at Xiaolei and asked. Before Xiaolei could even answer, she saw 2 groups of people fighting in front of them. They were all holding weapons such as sticks, knives, and so on. In a short moment, a few people who were bleeding all over fell to the ground, moaning and screaming. However, after a long time, a group of individuals who looked like the police came over, and these people who were madly fighting just left while carrying the injured away. Surprisingly, the police didn't follow them and just went straight back to what they were doing. Xiaolei's heart was beating rapidly as she looked on. She didn't think that things like this would occur in public, which gave her a shocking awakening from her previously naive thoughts. Flowing Snake is basically a place of anarchy, which was originally covered by the wilderness. However, after the 70s, due to the war, there were asylum seekers who gathered here. They came from the different countries around here and formed a fort-like town in the region. The police you saw previously were impromptu, therefore, there is hardly any place more chaotic than here. As if he had seen Emo and Xiaolei's shock, Shuaigua took the initiative to explain. Although this was the first time he came to Flowing Snake, he had already gathered a lot of information before. I think I'll stay with Uncle Zhua. Xiaolei no longer dared to be that lone heroic journalist and chose to stay with them without hesitation. Chapter 51, Ninghai Magical Doctor. Chapter 51, Ninghai Magical Doctor. After going into Flowing Snake, the Audi stopped in front of a stone house that Yemo thought to be interesting due to its unique design. It had a half-circular shape looking similar to the tents in Mongolia, and although there were multiple windows, they were tightly fitted between the stones on the wall. Zhua Igua didn't let Xiao Yu and Xiaolei go in with him and just asked Yemo to follow him. The space inside the room wasn't small, there were more than 20 people in it, and each and every one of them looked ferocious as they were surrounded by killer's qi. Even those who didn't understand qi or qi, one, could tell these people would kill if they had to. Other than the two armed men besides the long-haired man sitting at the top with a face full of ferocity, everyone else had either swords or custom-made knives. Seeing Zhua Igua and Yemo walk in, two ferocious-looking youth demanded to search Yemo and Zhua Igua before the long-haired leader even said anything. However, when these two approached Yemo grabbed one with each hand and threw them aside like harmless chickens. The two flew straight out the door like cannonballs in perfect formation. Seeing this, all the people in the room raised up the blades in their hands, waiting for the command of the long-haired man at the top. The man sitting in the top seat saw Yemo defend himself effortlessly, and shock flashed across his eyes. However, he immediately got over it and waved his hand, signaling his men not to be impulsive. After a brief moment, he simply said to the two people beside him, "You two leave first, Rock and Shadow stay behind." At this moment, there was only Zhua Igua and Yemo in the room, together with the long-haired man and two of his subordinates. That leader knew that this youth was obviously someone not to be messed with, and although he greatly overpowered Yemo in numbers, it didn't necessarily mean that they would be a match for him. Since a normal person couldn't just throw out two bulky men so casually, he might as well be more forgiving, and he wasn't planning on devouring Zhua Igua anyway. The long-haired man looked at Zhua Igua and saluted with his fist. "Boss Zhua, it's a pleasure to see you. May I ask who this is?" He chose his words carefully as he turned his head toward Yemo. Zhua Igua knew exactly what was going on. This person was afraid of Yemo, not him. Igua immediately waved his hand and said, "Chairman Fang, don't worry, he is my friend. He doesn't like to talk much, and was just afraid something would happen to me, so he came along. I have already brought the item that you seek. What about your end of the deal, Chairman Fang?" The long-haired youth looked scrupulously at Yemo once and procured a wooden box from a leather bag. As soon as the wooden box was taken out, Yemo felt an unusual qi. This definitely wasn't something normal, and actually had a sliver of pure spirit qi. Yemo's eyes shimmered. He had the instinct that this thing would be useful for him. "Show me your item first." The long-haired man held the wooden box and looked at Zhua Igua. Before Zhua Igua could speak, Yemo suddenly waved his hand, and the wooden box from the long-haired man flew by itself and landed right in Yemo's hands. This immediately scared the long-haired man, and he stood up abruptly. However, his shocked expression was immediately concealed. Now, his eyes not only looked at Yemo scrupulously but also with a deep fear and reverence. It wasn't only the long-haired man, but the two other people behind him, as well as Zhua Igua, who looked at Yemo in disbelief. What mutant ability was this? He simply waved his hands and was able to grab something from 6 to 7 meters away. Guillermo wasn't fazed by the shocked eyes around him. He just reached his hands and opened the box, and inside, there was a black piece of vine. As Guillermo picked up the vine, a faint spirit wave emanated from it. Purple heart vine? Guillermo immediately understood that this was a section of the root of a purple heart vine. Seeing this here on Earth shocked Guillermo, as it was a spiritual plant, and he knew that the spirit chi on Earth was scarce. He was already surprised when he had found the silver heart grass, much less this section of the purple heart vine. Unfortunately, there was only this tiny amount, if only there were more. Brother Yi! You! Chuaigua was so shocked by Guillermo's telekinetic ability that he stuttered while he tried to make sense of what had just happened. Before, Guillermo was able to beat many enemies down swiftly just by himself, which meant, in Chuaigua's eyes, that he had great ability. However, this telekinetic power could no longer be called a great ability. This was too outrageous. Brother Zhua, this thing will be useful to me. I was wondering if you would be willing to compromise. If it had been billions of USD, Guillermo would just ignore it. However, although this thing could be found easily where he came from, the probability to find it on Earth was minuscule. If it hadn't been for his good fortune, he wouldn't have been able to find it in his lifetime. Chuaigua didn't seem to have come back into reality from Guillermo's actions moments before. Now, he heard Guillermo's words, which immediately woke him up. He said in a hurry, "Since Brother Yi likes it, then just take it. This dark purple root is indeed rarely seen. I only managed to find it in Flowing Snake, and only this small piece." Guillermo heard Chuaigua calling the purple heart vine as a dark purple root, but didn't correct him. Perhaps that was what it was called here. After Chuaigua had said his piece, he took out an envelope and gave it to the long-haired man. "This is the check, take it." The long-haired man reacted and immediately walked in front of Guillermo, saluting with his fists, and said, "I'm Fang Nan. Right now, I'm a small leader of a small clan. I haven't asked for your honorable name yet, elder brother." He could already tell that Guillermo wasn't an ordinary person and wanted to create a connection with him. Although Guillermo was definitely younger than him, he still called Guillermo elder brother. Guillermo looked at this long-haired man. He wondered where he had obtained this plant and planned to ask him later. Besides, he had decided to live in Flowing Snake for a period of time, so it was necessary to have a good connection with the local snakes here. "I'm Guillermo. I plan to live at Flowing Snake for a period of time," Guillermo said. "Ah, great. If Brother Yi needs to deal with any trivial things, just come to me, Fan Nan. I'll give this dark purple root as a greeting present for Brother Yi." "Brother Zhua, sorry, please take this check back." Fan Nan pushed the check back to Chuaigua. Chuaigua wasn't amused and pushed the check right back to Fan Nan. "We've already agreed to this. This is my present to Brother Yi. How can I not pay for it?" Seeing the two was getting into an argument, Guillermo waved his and said, "Chairman Fang, just take the check. You have a lot of brothers with you, and you need it for expenditure. By the way, Brother Zhua, what need did you have for this dark purple root?" Chuaigua sighed and said, "For some unknown reason, when my son turned 8, he suddenly got sick, which left him mentally disabled. During the past couple of years, I don't know how many hospitals I have been to and how many specialists I have seen, but none of them had any clue as to how to treat him. It was until some old Chinese doctor told me to use a dark purple root to make a beverage to drink every day for 3 years, and it might cure the problem. I used countless ways until I finally found out that Chairman Fang had a piece here, so I rushed over here. Originally, my big uncle saw a magical doctor at Ninghai, but when I made my way over, that doctor had disappeared. I thought that if that magical doctor could cure my big uncle's disease, then he could definitely cure my son's disease." Sigh. "Unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough. Furthermore, this dark purple root may not necessarily cure my son's disease. That Chinese doctor just said maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter if Brother Yi takes it." "Ninghai?" Guillermo repeated to make sure he didn't hear wrongly. He thought that since he just came over from Ninghai, maybe Zhuo Aigua was talking about the old man that he had saved last time. Yes, Ninghai, they met him at Likang Hospital. My big uncle had his disease for many years, and many specialists made the same conclusions, yet, that magical doctor still managed to save my big uncle. Unfortunately, it was a heavenly fortune to encounter him once. It is too hard to find him again, Zhuo Aigua said, as he was looking down gloomily. Meanwhile, Yemo was already sure that this magical doctor he talked about was none other than himself. Notes: 1. A little reminder/clarification. Qi refers to the special qi Yemo cultivates. It is used by the immortals who are called the cultivators. Qi is used by the martial artists or masters who cultivates on earth. The killer's qi is obtained after taking many lives and enjoying it. Chapter 52, Far-Off Living Place. Chapter 52, Far-Off Living Place. Yemo said after a moment of silence. Brother Zhuo, if you trust me, leave me an address. After my business here is over, I will go to your place to have a look, and perhaps I can cure him. However, I need to tell you that the dark purple root cannot cure your son's disease. I don't know where that old Chinese doctor heard it from, but it is definitely bullsh*t. Zhuo Aigua yelped in surprise and grabbed Yemo's hands. Brother Yi, can you really help cure my son? Yemo nodded and said. It shouldn't be a big problem. Of course, I believe you, of course. The stuttering Zhuo Aigua took out an exquisite name card and gave it to Yemo. This is my home address and contact number. Please, brother. He didn't think that Yemo was lying and believed that Yemo wasn't the type of person to brag either, much less after seeing Yemo's magical performance today. Although he hadn't been with Yemo for long, he felt that Yemo was a trustworthy person and a good friend. Yemo looked at the name card and nodded. However, I can't go to Beijing now. It would probably have to wait until a year from now. Yemo knew that he would be probably throwing himself into a trap going to Beijing now. Don't worry about it, as long as Brother Yi remembers, it's fine. Zhuo Aigua didn't seem the slightest displeased at all. Instead, he was euphoric. Even if the dark purple root could cure his son, it needed at least 2 to 3 years. On the other side, even if Yemo said that he couldn't cure, now, it meant that as long as he went there, it probably should be solved. Zhuo Aigua knew which was the better choice. As for why Yemo didn't go with him now, he didn't think too much about it. Yemo was a magical person. He had his own errands to deal with. Plus, this wasn't his first day in the world. Yemo had to run to the borderline of the country, meaning that he had his troubles. As a friend, one didn't need to ask about everything. Haha, Brother Yi, I'll immediately order people to set up a feast to welcome you too. Fan Nan's happiness wasn't about doing the business deal today, but being able to meet someone like Yemo was definitely something to celebrate, and most importantly, he would be staying for some time. Just when Xiaolei was panicking after waiting for so long, Yemo and Zhuo Aigua came out, followed by a bulky, long-haired man. After the meal, Xiaolei could tell that both the guests and the host were happy. Whether it was Zhuo Aigua or that ferocious-looking man, they were all very respectful towards Yemo, and this respect came from the bottom of their heart. Zhuo Aigua was the manager of a big Beijing entrepreneurship and was a wealthy man. But this big man didn't seem like the nice type. However, he was also extremely respectful toward Yemo. Although she had a lot of questions to ask, Xiaolei knew that she wasn't familiar enough with Yemo. Thus, she asked Xiaoyu a load of questions, but Xiaoyu didn't know anything either. Their living places were organized by Fang Nan. However, Yemo went out after dinner. As for where, no one knew, except for Zhuo Aigua, who had a vague clue. Yemo went to the base of those 13 thugs, but to Yemo's disappointment, it was empty. He really didn't know how these people didn't have any savings after doing zero capital business for so long, which broke Yemo's wish of getting rich. Fan Nan came to Yemo and the others' living place early in the morning. Right now, Fan Nan's Pu Dao clan was one of the 3 great clans of Flowing Snake. The worst of the 3 great clans was the 13 Turbos. But now, the 13 Turbos were no more. Thus, Pu Dao clan became one of the two biggest clans in Flowing Snake. Because of Fong Nen taking good care of Zhuo Aigua and the others, they were very safe in Flowing Snake, and no one dared to harass them. The second day, Zhuo Aigua bid Yemo farewell as he was leaving Flowing Snake. "I'll send a few brothers to help you get to the big roads." Seeing that Zhuo Aigua and the others were leaving, Fong Nen told them that he would send some of his men to help Zhuo Aigua going back safely. Yemo didn't stop him. The 13 turbos who blocked the road were already destroyed by him, so even without someone sending them, Zhuo Aigua and company would be in no danger. However, since Fong Nan took the initiative to send them, Yemo didn't say anything. Xiao Lei walked in front of Yemo and mumbled, Yemo, could you leave me your phone number? I would like to be able to thank you for saving my life when you come to Beijing." Although she mumbled at the start, she became more confident at the end. After all, she was a journalist. Yemo smiled and said, "Thanks, but it won't be necessary. In fact, I don't even have a phone, so I don't have a number to give you. You don't need to worry about such small things." Xiao Lei became dazed. From her perspective, Yemo wouldn't reject a beautiful lady like her who asked his number. No man would reject a pretty woman's invitation, and yet Yemo did. She didn't believe that Yemo didn't have a phone. In these days, who wouldn't have a phone? Seeing Xiao Lei's awkwardness, although Zhuo Aigua knew that Yemo really didn't have a phone, he didn't correct her misunderstanding and only said, "Let's go. Otherwise, we won't make it to the plane to Xianshan today." Helpless, Xiao Lei could only endure the rejection and left with Zhuo Aigua. As for a place to cultivate, since there was Fong Nan's help, Yemo didn't need Zhuo Aigua's help anymore. The place Fong Nan arranged for Yemo was a pagoda nearly 10 kilometers away from Flowing Snake. Initially, this place sheltered a wandering monk who knew Fong Nan, and it was built with Fong Nan's support. Chapter 53: The Results of the Song Family's Investigation. Chapter 53: The results of the Song family's investigation. The Song family of Beijing was definitely one of the most powerful families in China. In fact, they were also a member of the 5 greatest families of China. However, right now the atmosphere inside the Song family's compound wasn't comfortable for no other reason than that the only son of the leader of the family, Song Qiming, had died from a car crash, allegedly speeding through the night. Nevertheless, everyone in the Song family knew that Song Shaowen's death had nothing to do with speeding. Even if he had been in a rush and had been forced to be speeding along the way, he wouldn't be driving to a barren place like the Qinong Cliff. Furthermore, what would make him drive his car on the Fengjin Highway at midnight? Besides, how did the people of the Song family not know about Song Shaowen's character? He was the typical person afraid of troubles. So if he had something that required him to go past Fengjin Highway, he would only go during the day and definitely not at 3 to 4 a.m. What are the results of the investigation? As the elder of the Song family wasn't here, Song Qiming's words represented the authority of the Song family. Although he was calm looking on the surface, the veins on his hands were about to burst out, showing his rage. His only son was assassinated like this. Who had the guts to touch a member of the Song family? A middle-aged man stood up and said, "Leader, we have the results. Shaowen went to Hefeng a week ago but only stayed there for 1 day. Afterward, he left Hefeng and was probably headed to Ninghai with Afa and Wang Chuan. However, there wasn't any video recording of Shaowen's car on the highway of Ningfeng, or rather, it could be said that all the traffic cameras were shut down during the time Shaowen entered and left Ninghai. I sent people to investigate at Ninghai, and Shaowen had indeed asked people to shut down the cameras there. The only reason Shaowen would go to Ninghai would be for that Ning Qingxue. However, Ning Qingxue didn't leave Ninghai and went to Yustai 2 days later, yet at the same time, Yemo, the one who married Ning Qingxue, disappeared the same night without a trace. Afterward, I completely examined the remnants of the car, but Yemo's body wasn't there, so either he had left the car midway, or he was never inside to begin with. According to the cameras at the Qinong Cliff Highway, Shaowen's BMW was driving properly but suddenly charged off the road and fell onto the cliff. Could someone have drugged the driver? A 50-or-so-year-old man on the side asked, but the middle-aged man shook his head and said, It can't be. According to the roadside cameras, Xiaowen's car had been driving normally everywhere else, except for the part in Ninghai where the cameras were turned off. No anomaly occurred until this happened suddenly at the Qinong cliff. Do you know where Yemo is now? Song Qiming asked another question, but the middle-aged only man shook his head and said, Currently, we don't know his whereabouts, but we did find a surveillance system in Yemo and Ning Qingshue's house. However, the content had been deleted, and we are in the process of recovering it. At this moment a 20-year-old or so man rushed inside while holding an USB in his hand, which he passed to the middle-aged man and said, Uncle Hai, the content has been recovered. Check it immediately. Before the middle-aged man even spoke, Song Qiming said coldly. The USB was inserted into the computer, and the huge screen showed Yemo's life, as well as the scene in which Song Xiaowen and his henchmen left with Yemo. So it does have something to do with him. The 50-or-so-year-old man looked at the fast-forwarded images and said in a fury. He didn't even think about who ran into someone else's house in the middle of the night. He was just angry that Song Xiaowen died after leaving there. It seems that B*TCH of the Ning family didn't know at the time, so she probably deleted this afterward. A skinny man sitting below Song Qiming said. Even if she didn't know, this is related to her. There's no way that our Song family is going to let her go so easily. Uncle Hai, who was responsible for the investigation, said. Song Qiming's face was very bleak, but he waved his hand and said, I won't let the Ning family go like that, but it's not just about Ning Qingxue. I will destroy the entire Ning family forever. Don't touch the Ning family for now. Capture that useless man of the Yi family first. It would be best to take him back to Beijing secretly. I will let him know that it isn't so easy to kill a member of the Song family. He caught his breath before speaking again. Song Hai, you will be responsible for investigating where Yemo went and try to bring him back to Beijing in the shortest time possible. If that can't be done, then bring his head back as a sacrifice in front of Xiaowen. Also, you need to investigate how Yemo made Xiaowen drive off the cliff. Yes, leader. Song Hai replied straightforwardly. That 50-or-so-year-old man frowned and said, This Yemo is rather strange. He married the girl from Ning family, but why does he always sit under the tree? Is he able to cultivate qi? I heard a lot of ancient martial arts families like to sit and cultivate qi. If he really does have an ancient martial arts master, then this might be troublesome. Uncle Shen, I don't think this is possible. Yemo is a disabled man. Even the Yi family didn't want him. Would a legendary ancient martial arts cultivator see any potential in him? Besides, even if he was picked up by someone, why was there not a single image of his master in that month of recording? Uncle Shin, I think you're thinking too much. Song Hai said. The man called Uncle Shin nodded and said, It'd be best if this were the case. If he really did have an ancient martial art cultivator supporting him, then even if we're one of the 5 greatest families, it would probably be very unlikely for us to take revenge. The day that the Song family took away the recording from Ninghai, Ning Qingxue knew it and immediately felt a burning sensation in her heart as she regretted not destroying that disc. She didn't think that the Song family would really come here to investigate, and it was implausible to believe that the Song family would not be able to recover the details. The only way was to contact Yemo immediately and notify him that the Song family knew about the truth. However, she didn't have or know any way to contact Yemo. After giving it plenty of thought, Ning Qingxue had decided to tell her mom and said that she wanted to find Yemo, which surprised her mother immensely. She didn't think that so much had actually happened during her short trip, and even Song Xiaowen's death was related to the Ning family. Qingxue, right now it's not about finding Yemo, but about how we are going to deal with Song family's revenge. Clearly, with Song Qiming's character, there's no way he'd let this pass, especially you. Ning Qingxue's mother had a great insight to this. Ning Qingxue shook her head and said, I owe Yemo for this, and now I have dragged you down as well. I'm really useless, and I'm too naive sometimes. I'm sorry, mother. Her mother sighed and said, Although our family has separated from the Ning family, the Song family can't deal with us that easily. Qingxue, don't worry, First tell me exactly what happened between you and Emo. Chapter 54. The Leisurely Person in the Forest. Chapter 54. The leisurely person in the forest. Although Fong Nan gave him an approximate direction, Fong Nan couldn't remember it too clearly after all these years. And even though Fong Nan asked if he should come with him to help find it, Emo knew that it would take a long time to find. Besides, the 13 turbos were just newly exterminated, so the resources of Flowing Snake needed to be redistributed, and there were many things Fong Nan needed to do. As such, he didn't allow Fong Nan to come with him. Plus, he would probably be faster by himself in the forest anyway. Emo had been searching in this endless forest for 3 days, yet he still hadn't found where Fong Nan buried the llama. However, he did cross paths with danger many times. In only one day, he had met a wild cheetah, 2 wild wolves, and 20 different types of venomous snakes. The most crucial information that Fong Nan gave him were 2 evergreen trees in the surrounding, yet these past few days, Emo hadn't been able to find even one, much less 2. However, what Emo lacked the least was patience. Although it was the depth of the forest, he decided to look farther and deeper the 4th day. However, he needed to fill his stomach before he went in. As Emo roasted a wild rabbit, he was organizing in his head the places he had already looked over, when a few clear gunshots interrupted his thought process. As Emo raised his head, he saw a robust man that was around 30 years old, who stumbled over and was holding a triple-edged military knife on his hand. The man was covered in wounds, his clothes were ragged and torn, but from what Emo saw, the heaviest injury was the gunshot on his waist. Although this shot was near the side, blood had already dyed red his ragged clothes. At the same time Emo saw this man, he also saw Emo and became immediately shocked. He didn't think that he could find someone leisurely roasting a wild rabbit this deep inside the forest. Even with him running for his life, his starved stomach still couldn't resist but make a sound. Emo looked at this fleeing man and immediately felt a familiar chi from him, which also had a feeling of a killer's chi to it as well, similar to Wang Su, the one he had met at Su Jingwen's birthday party. They should be from the same group. Emo immediately formed a conclusion in his head. However, he didn't know who would be chasing him like this. Just when Emo was thinking about Wang Su, more hurried footsteps could be heard behind the man, and soon, 3 men equipped with guns appeared in front of Emo. The heavily injured man looked apologetically at Emo but didn't say anything. The 3 men stopped after seeing the injured man had stopped. They also looked at Emo, who was roasting a rabbit by the fire, with surprise. After all, not anyone could roast rabbits in a wild forest like this. This place wasn't safe. Even if you wanted to roast something, you would choose a quieter place, not here, where there were nowhere to hide in case of danger. None of the 5 people here said a word, and the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Only the sound and the smell of Emo roasting his rabbit were still lingering in the air. The 3 looked at each other and nodded, then the slightly darker man said, "Friend, there's no business for you here, how about you move aside? We just want to capture the man who escaped here." The accent was a bit weird. Emo stared weirdly at the man who talked, and was just about to say, "This place isn't your home, why should I move?" But the other man suddenly raised his gun and threatened to shoot Emo. However, before his fingers even pulled the trigger, a few hardly discernible sounds fluttered through the air, interrupting his movement. Suddenly appeared on all 3 of them a red dot in the middle of their forehead, and then, blood gushed out from it. The 3 of them looked at Emo with their eyes wide open in disbelief as they collapsed on the ground. They didn't realize how anything could happen this fast, as this was, at most, a single breath of time. Emo didn't like to kill people, but he was merciless to those who would threaten his life. The nails in his hands were only here to prevent someone pointing a gun at him ever again. The heavily injured man stared, his eyes wide open, unable to believe what had just taken place. The 3 who hunted him for so long were so easily killed by a man leisurely roasting a rabbit. It wasn't surprising that he dared to roast rabbits here. He was an unbelievable being. "The rabbit is ready, do you want some?" Emo looked at the man who didn't speak for a long time and smiled plainly. He had a good impression of Wang Su, and since this man most likely was connected to Wang Su, it didn't matter if he invited him to some food. "Ah, okay, thank you. I'm Guichi, thanks for saving my life just then." Guichi saluted with his fist as his face became calmer. Yemo waved his hand and smiled. "It's nothing, fate brought this encounter, I'm Yemo." After slicing half of the rabbit, he took a few herbs from his backpack and crushed it before sprinkling it on top of it. Guichi was confused as he watched the scene that didn't seem to be very hygienic. Although he had finished with the herb, Yemo didn't give that part of the rabbit to Guichi. Instead, he said, "Come over, I'll check your wounds." Hearing Yemo's words and seeing what Yemo did before, Guichi seemed to have understood that Yemo was fumbling with herbs for his wounds, so he quickly walked over. When Guichi walked in front of him, Yemo raised his hand and, as he used his palm to hit the opposite side of Guichi's gun wound, a bullet flew out like a comet landing far away in the woods. Meanwhile, Guichi didn't even feel a pinch of pain as the bullet from his waist was taken out and was shocked. How is this person so powerful? This was his first time seeing a bullet being taken out like this. As though he did not see Guichi's shock, Yemo passed over the half of the rabbit in his hand, took out 2 more herbs and gave them to Guichi. "Chew on the herbs and spread it on your gun wound and then eat this rabbit. You should be fine after that." After he had finished, Yemo didn't pay any more attention to Guichi and started to eat his own half of the rabbit. Meanwhile, Guichi was fascinated to discover that not only did his wounds not hurt anymore, but there was also a feeling of coolness, and started to wonder what kind of herb could have effects so potent. Immediately, Yemo became extremely mysterious in his eyes. This was no longer gratitude, but an unknown feeling of reverence. In a forest full of danger, he not only leisurely roasted rabbits, but he could heal his gun wounds so easily and even took out his bullet just with a palm. This person appeared so mighty as he killed the U Special Forces without blinking. "He definitely wasn't you," so Guichi immediately said. "The 3 people before should be you. Our squad was ambushed by them on a mission, and apart from me, there are 2 team members who have died and another 3 survivors trapped in a cave, but I think they are probably in their hands at this point. Meanwhile, I escaped to find support." Yemo frowned and didn't say anything. He knew what Guichi meant, but he wasn't a soldier. As for a team that was beaten like this by you, Yemo was contemptuous. Although he didn't want to help, Yemo had already a very bad impression of you since, as soon as he came to Flowing Snake, he was blockaded by a group of them. Even though he killed them all, in the end, he was still disgusted by them. "Although I really want to help you, I have things to do here. I'm searching for something." Yemo stood up and was prepared to leave. He didn't know Guichi at all, and he saved his life just then. Besides, he had things to do. If it were convenient, then he wouldn't mind, but if he had to go out of his way to help, then he would feel that it was troublesome. Chapter 55 Lend a Helping Hand. Chapter 55 Lend a Helping Hand. Elder Brother Yi, our instructor has told us that the one who reaches the first place among us, or the strongest, is the elder brother. Although I'm a few years older than you, I know you're not an ordinary person, and you definitely are the person who would reach the first spot, so following our instructor's words, I'll refer to you as elder brother. I don't understand the great ideologies of a man's responsibilities in the affairs of the world, but the you bastards have been burning, raiding, and killing at our borderlines. There's no evil that they won't commit. 30 years ago, our army started to retaliate, but the southern you abuse and humiliate before killing the Chinese in their territory. They burned Chinese factories, and countless compatriots have been brutally murdered. Although a few decades have passed, these devils haven't stopped their actions, and even though it's more subtle, they are still a threat to us. This time, a few of my team members were surrounded by the U, so even if I, Guichi, die, I will save them. On the behalf that we're all Chinese, I want to ask for your help. Moreover, since we're really familiar with the surroundings here, if you help me rescue my teammates, I'm willing to help you find what you're looking for." Guichi finished his monologue and looked at Yemo fervently. Yemo stayed silent for a moment. He didn't have any good impression for those you devils, and as for Guichi helping him with his search, that wouldn't be necessary. He had already been looking for a few days, so he didn't think that Guichi and his team could help him find it. However, this Guichi had some reason to his words. He was a Chinese right now, and since he should be helping out with this simple task. Thinking about this, Yemo nodded and said, "Brother Gua is right, don't mind my words just then, I didn't think it through. Let's be on our way then. Meanwhile, tell me the situation in detail. A few pesky you are no threat to me." "Thank you, elder brother Yi." Guichi saw that Yemo had agreed and saluted with his fist delightedly. He understood that Yemo wasn't a heartless person. He was probably living in reclusion for some time and had faint views of some concepts. Guichi picked up 3 guns and gave one to Yemo, but Yemo waved his hand. "No need, I don't like to use guns, it's troublesome to hold in your hand." Guichi suddenly remembered the situation when Yemo killed those strong soldiers with his bare hands and gave up on the thought. After hearing Guichi's details on the situation, Yemo finally understood that it wasn't that Guichi and his squad were weak. There were 6 people in Guichi's squad, and when they were doing a mission on the borderline, they had been ambushed in the forest. Although the attacker didn't show their identity, Guichi firmly believed that they were you. In the ambush, 2 people died, and 3 were trapped. Only Guichi managed to escape. The place they were trapped at was called the Hanchan Cave. Guichi said that if it wasn't that the geology benefited them, their whole team would have been annihilated. When they were ambushed, they tried to break through, but the only one who managed to escape was him, and if it had not been for Yemo, even he wouldn't have been able to go any further. The Hanchan Cave wasn't very close, and Guichi led Yemo on a 2-hour walk before arriving. Just when they neared the cave, they heard a gunshot. When the gunshot sounded, Guichi immediately said in joy, "They haven't been captured yet. This is my squad member's gun, I can tell by the sound." Meanwhile, Yemo was also overwhelmed with joy. However, it was because he had realized that the place Fong Nan was describing was exactly like this Hanchan Cave. Although he hadn't seen the evergreen yet, the surrounding was exactly as Fong Nan had described. It seemed that he needed to be more willing to help people. Otherwise, he was sure that he wouldn't have been able to find this place in 2 hours. "Elder brother Yi, what now?" Although Guichi was an elite in the special forces, he knew that he was a far cry from Yemo. Now that he knew his teammates weren't in enemy hands, his thinking immediately became more fluid. However, he was aware that even if his teammates weren't in enemy hands, they probably wouldn't be able to last long. They were most likely going to run out of ammo very soon. Otherwise, if the team had enough ammunition, they wouldn't fire so scarcely. "How many people are against us?" Yemo returned to his senses. If he wanted to find what he was looking for, first, he had to finish off all the people that trapped Guichi's teammates here. From the number of gunshot sounds during the ambush, I think there were at least 20 people and, at the time, we had also finished off 3 to 4 men. It looks like my teammates haven't been captured yet, and my guess is that they are trying to hold out until the nightfall before breaking through the lockdown. However, the enemy should be aware of this too and wouldn't let my teammates last that long. I think they might be thinking of a strategy right now." Guichi's reply was quite precise. Yemo nodded and said, "You stay carefully behind me, and don't fire unless absolutely necessary. I'll take care of the rest." Guichi knew that Yemo silently killed 3 special ops at that time, so he didn't have the slightest doubt about his words. If he were in the shadows, then 16 people really weren't enough to deal with someone as mighty as him. He even wondered who was stronger between Yemo or Su Shi, who the authorities sent to teach them for 3 days. While Guichi was still thinking, Yemo had already moved out. The Hanchan Cave was within a valley, so this place was easy to defend but hard to invade. Although he didn't know why those people chose to ambush Guichi here, Yemo knew that it was either due to a time constraint or Guichi's team was able to retreat here in time. Yemo's spirit sense could already reach out to a radius of 7 meters, and when it was close to the Hanchan Cave's valley, Yemo immediately discovered 6 people hidden not far away. If Guichi didn't make the wrong judgment, then it meant that they had reinforcements elsewhere. There was a loud bang as a bomb exploded outside the Hanchan Cave, creating a huge mushroom cloud. It seemed that these people didn't want to kill them, but were using the bombs to threaten the people inside. Yemo shot out 6 nails which went into the back of their heads or into their temples. The 6 men died quickly and silently. The outside of the Han Chan cave had a fan shape, so although it was easy to hold the position, it was also incredibly easy for the people from the outside to trap them. Yemo walked along the fan shape and killed his way through. Unfortunately, when he killed the 21st person, he was finally discovered by the last 3 people because the person Yemo had just killed was communicating with them, and his voice just suddenly dropped. From his cries for help, they immediately found Yemo. 3 gunshots resounded. Although Yemo's spirit sense had scanned their movement, and he dodged at the right time, there was still a blood slash on his arm. These people were much stronger than the 13 turbos, and the guns in their hands were also much more sophisticated than the trash used by the 13 turbos. He was actually injured. Enraged, Yemo shot out 6 nails at once. 2 people were killed straight away as 2 nails reached them, while the remaining 4 nails smashed to mesh the face of the man who hurt him. "Come over!" Yemo called to Guichi. Of course, Guichi had realized by now that there definitely weren't just 16 or 17 people. 6 or 7 more people came. He said embarrassingly, "I apologize, Elder Brother Yi. It seems that I had the wrong information. Hurry up and meet up with your team." Yemo waved his hand and said. Chapter 56, Ji Wanqing. Chapter 56, Ji Wanqing. "Captain, that bomb just exploded, but why nothing else followed after that? And what was that gunshot afterward? Did we get reinforcements? I don't know what's going on. I'll go outside and have a look. You guys stay here. Wanqing, are you alright?" I'm fine, but leave me a grenade." The woman called Wanqing who spoke last had a pale face. The other 2 people knew what she had meant. Ammunitions were getting low, and if she couldn't defend herself anymore, she would commit suicide while taking as many lives with her as possible. "Captain Lu, are you guys alright?" Guichi started yelling as soon as he came in. It sounded like Brother Gua. "Right, it is Brother Gua. Did we get reinforcements? Are the U-Devils finally finished?" The youth with a machine gun in his hand asked, surprised. "Fang Wei, you're right, it is Guichi. How did he get in? Wasn't he?" "No way." The woman who was they referred as Captain shook her head halfway. "What's going on, Guichi?" Captain Lu asked as soon as she saw Guichi coming to the entrance of the cave. Guichi saw the 3 people in the cave and was relieved as he noticed Ji Wanqing was still able to hold herself against the cave wall. "I have requested for reinforcements, and we have already finished off all the U-Devils outside. Are you guys alright?" "We're fine, it's just that Wanqing was shot in the thigh. By the way, which squad saved us?" Captain Lu looked at Guichi with suspicion, thinking, which team could come here this quickly? Even reinforcements couldn't get here so fast. Was it Wolf Hall's people? "No, I met a friend in the forest just then. He saved me and helped me deal with the 20 or so U-Devils outside." Guichi caught on with his breath and said, "What? You're saying one person killed more than 20 special ops? And this person is a friend you just met? Oh, Guichi, you do know how to kid." Captain Lu exclaimed immediately. Ji Wanqing and Fang Wei also looked at Guichi with suspicion. If they didn't deeply understand Guichi as a person, they would even think that Guichi had betrayed them. Guichi hurriedly said, "Captain Lu, this is real. However, that friend ambushed them. He didn't fight them head-on, but he killed them off one by one in the shadows. I followed behind him and saw very clearly. He was only discovered by the last few, and they opened fire." Fang Wei then came to the realization and said, "I heard those U-Devils open fire at the end, so that's what it was. Even if he ambushed them, this ability is definitely absurdly strong. Let's go, Guichi, show me this friend of yours. Wanqing, I'll help carry you." Captain Lu said to the woman behind her who was injured and didn't care if she would agree or not. She just carried her on her back. "Wanqing has a gunshot wound, but my friend can cure it in a matter of minutes. Look, I was shot here this morning, and now it has a scab already. It has only been a few hours. He really is amazing. Fortunately, I had the chance to meet him when I was running away, but you wouldn't even believe what he was doing at that time. Guichi spoke those words quickly. That's amazing, it really did form a scab. Fang Wei had been so amazed by the wound at Guichi's waist that he couldn't help but exclaimed. After a while, he remembered about Guichi's last part and asked, "By the way, Guichi, what was he doing when you met him?" Guichi smiled and said, "He was leisurely roasting a rabbit in the middle of nowhere. He even gave me half of it after casually taking care of 3 men in a flash and healing my wound. He is definitely the strongest senpai I have met before. There are actually people this strong. I have to make him become my master, but he must be quite old. Sigh, if only Lu Chun and Yunnan were still here." Fan Wei's eyes became glum. Hearing Fang Wei talk about Lu Chun and Yunnan, these few people all fell into silence, and suddenly, the atmosphere grew heavy. What? A pile. After walking out of the cave, those few people immediately saw the 24 people Yemo killed stacked into a pile, but Yemo wasn't here. He actually killed that many. He is way too king amazing. I must bow down to him as my master. Fan Wei exclaimed once again. Don't bother trying, Brother Yi is a powerful person out of this world. Do you really think he's going to take you in? Brother Yi! Brother Yi! After finishing, Guichi called out. You all came out? Then you can leave, I still have some things to do, so I won't be staying anymore. Yemo suddenly appeared from somewhere and smiled plainly. Guichi was stunned for a moment, and immediately said, Elder Brother Yi, you're leaving? Oh, let me introduce, this is the captain of the Eagle Hunter, Luo Lin. The woman on her back is called Shi Wanqing, and this is Fang Wei, he really admires you. Captain, this is the Yemo I told you of that helped us. Yemo, hello, my name is Lu Lin, I'm really grateful for you this time. I never expected you to be this young, I thought you would be at least 30 or 40. Luo Lin hurried to extend a hand and shake with Yemo. The gratitude in her eyes was evident. Big Brother Yi, you really are so strong and so young. My name is Fang Wei, would you take me as your disciple? Fang Wei's eyes shot out intense beams as he looked at Yemo with admiration. Yemo waved his hand and said, I only got them through ambushes, I'm only half learned myself, how can I take disciples? Don't bring up this anymore. Shi Wanqing looked at Yemo, and her eyes brightened up. The reason she wanted to join the army and even got into the Eagle Hunter squad through her hard work was because of her admiration for the strength of soldiers. Furthermore, her grandpa was a soldier, and her father was a soldier. However, her father didn't have a son and only had her as a daughter. She even had an argument with her father over some things and didn't want to stay home, so she used Hua Mulan, 1, as her idol and joined the military. If Yemo was really as powerful as Guichi had said, then he was a partner that she could approve. Usually, she had been very cold to people. Firstly, it was because she was too beautiful, so if she wasn't cold in the army, then there would be too many flies flying around her. Secondly, she felt that there was not a single person that deserved her admiration in the army. Although her instructors were unyielding, they couldn't finish off more than 20 enemies all by themselves, even with an ambush tactic. Of course, her cold personality was mainly due to family reasons and her upbringing. The only one she slightly admired was Su Shi. He came to her squad to teach them for a few days, and he really was strong. However, he left a few days after. Yemo, who was in front of her eyes, seemed a bit different from Su Shi, and yet she didn't know exactly how. It was just a vague feeling. Elder Brother Yi, this is my squad member Shi Wanqing. She is wounded in the leg, could you perhaps treat it for her? Guichi looked desperately at Yemo. Yemo looked at the woman on Lu Lin's back. She was just a bit over 20, her hair was very short, and her face was beautiful and picturesque like a drawing. However, she was a little pale, probably due to the loss of blood. Yemo shook his head and thought that this type of girl should be staying at home. Why would she come to the country border forest to fight? Note 1. Hua Mulan was a female general in ancient China who fought for her country disguised as a man, Disney made a movie out of her story. Another famous woman was Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc in French, who kept her hair short and men's soldiers' clothing through her military campaigns. Chapter 57 Treatment. Chapter 57 Treatment. Put her down, I'll have a look. Yemo had already noticed the gunshot wound in Qi Wanqing's leg. However, Lu Lin carried Qi Wanqing some distance away and put her down in an obscure brush before saying, "Please, Mr. Yi, while we deal with the bodies, could you help treat Wanqing? There are some spoils of war that we need to collect." She didn't wait for Yemo's answer and left. Yemo nodded. This Captain Lu did things fast and was very straightforward. She didn't even ask how he was going to treat her or even if he could treat her, and she didn't have the intention of asking Qi Wanqing either. Lu Lin left. Qi Wanqing looked down at the position of the wound on her leg and then looked at Yemo. She felt a bit awkward. After all, this posture wasn't the best. She believed Guiqi's words. Since he said this Yemo could cure her, then he definitely could. However, the wound was on her thigh, and she hoped that he didn't plan on taking off her pants. Yemo looked at Qi Wanqing's wound and frowned. It wasn't that he couldn't cure her, but this position was a bit awkward. What if he put his hands there, and this woman started rambling? He really hated doing things that were arduous yet possibly punishing, and seeing this woman's cold complexion, she really might start protesting. As she noticed that Yemo was looking at her wound and frowned without talking, Qi Wanqing immediately understood what was going on, and immediately, her impression of Yemo improved. She used a voice that was so low that even she could barely hear. "Yi. Big brother Yi, you can treat me, it's okay." Yemo was stunned for a moment, and didn't know how to reply. He didn't think that she would take the initiative to ask him to treat her. He started to have a better impression of Qi Wanqing, who seemed cold on the outside but wasn't that indifferent on the inside. The reason he felt it was troublesome was that Qi Wanqing's wound was strapped tight by her camo suit, unlike Guiqi, who was wearing ragged clothes. He only needed a palm to force out the bullet. However, Qi Wanqing's wound was strapped very tight by her camo suit. Now that Qi Wanqing said she didn't mind and asked him to treat her, he immediately had a good feeling towards her and thought that she was a very genuine girl. Thinking about this, he also smiled. "In fact, your wound isn't something troublesome. However, there are only two ways. First, you take off your pants, and I'll help you treat it. The other way would be to poke a hole in your pants. Look, no need, I'll take it off. I didn't bring another pair," Qi Wanqing said, and took off her clothes in her own accord. Since she had agreed, she wouldn't be hesitant. Yemo's good impression towards this straightforward girl rose once again. Seeing her difficulty in moving, he hurried over and said, "Let me." "Thank you." From the first time Qi Wanqing set eyes on Yemo, she had felt that he was a pretty good person. Besides, when she saw his hesitation at the position of her wound and how his eyes never left that spot, she felt more trust toward Yemo and actually let him take off her pants. Although Yemo's hand didn't touch her skin directly, she could still feel the warmth of his hands, feeling a heartfelt comfort. Yemo didn't take her pants off completely and just took it down to her wound and strapped it up. However, Qi Wanqing felt this way to be more intimate, and her face immediately became flushed. As she didn't dare to look at Yemo's movements again, she turned her head, deep in thought. Qi Wanqing's youthful white skin struck a chord with Yemo. Her underwear seemed to be white checkered. However, Yemo didn't dare to look and focused his mind on the task. At the same time, Yemo palmed on Qi Wanqing's thigh, and a bullet flew out in a small spurt of blood. Afterward, Yemo took out a few herbs and chewed it a few times before applying it to her wound. With the help of his qi, the medicinal power was quickly digested into the wound. Finally, he took out the dressing from his bag and strapped it to Qi Wanqing's wound, and pulled up her pants. The whole process took barely a few minutes. The reason he chewed the herbs instead of letting her doing it was that he was afraid that she would be too slow, and since girls needed some face, it wasn't good if she had her pants off for too long. Qi Wanqing only realized that he was done when Yemo pulled up her pants. She didn't even see the entire process. "Brother Yi, you Have you finished treating me already? Chi Wanqing's blush hadn't retreated and was a little dazed. It's done. You will probably be completely fine tomorrow morning. Yemo smiled and said a few words. He used his chi to help her heal her wound, so she should recuperate faster than Gui Chi. It really doesn't hurt. There's also a feeling of coolness. Thank you, Brother Yi, you really are amazing. For the first time, Chi Wanqing felt that there was such a thing as magic in the world, and her previous awkwardness had long disappeared. Which doctor could do what Yemo did just then? Taking out a bullet in a few minutes and treating a gunshot wound so easily. Thank you, Brother Yi. Chi Wanqing also felt Yemo wasn't a normal person, just like what she had said. Brother Yi, do you mind if I ask you what you do for a living? This was actually the first time Chi Wanqing asked about a man and felt her face burning up, but she desperately wanted to know. She also knew that it was fate to be able to meet someone like Yemo. Not everyone could meet someone with such ability. Yemo opened his mouth but swallowed the words. Let's go. Chi Wanqing asked him something like that meant that she didn't have the intentions of leaving right now, so he could only casually say, I don't have a stable job now, they're all temporary. As for what I do, if I'm lucky, I can earn quite a lot, but when I'm not. I had been kicked out by the city management once, Yemo wasn't lying. He helped treat people, sell at roadside stalls, sell charms and even help people deal with gangs. Chi Wanqing looked at Yemo in disbelief. She couldn't believe that someone like Yemo didn't have a job and was even doing casual jobs. Brother Yi, thank you for saving my life. Chi Wanqing couldn't even finish before she was interrupted by Yemo. Yemo smiled as he interrupted her. Even if I didn't help with your wound, you would have been fine. I didn't save your life. Chi Wanqing smiled sweetly, which stunned Yimi as he stared at her. He didn't think that the cold-looking Chi Wanqing could have such an attractive smile. Seeing that Yemo seemed to be entranced while looking at her, Chi Wanqing actually felt joyful and hurriedly said, Brother Yi, I'm not talking about this. If you didn't come, the rest of the squad and I wouldn't even be able to live and perhaps would have been our *ped. I'm really grateful to you. Yemo nodded as he knew that Chi Wanqing was speaking the truth. He contemplated for a while and responded, Actually, I feel that a girl like you aren't suitable for the army, but of course, this is just my view. Unexpectedly, Chi Wanqing nodded and said, Brother Yi, you're right. Originally, I admired the military lifestyle, so I have worked very hard myself until I finally entered the Eagle Hunter squad. However, judging from now, perhaps I'm really not suited to live in the military. After thinking for a while, Chi Wanqing continued once again. Brother Yi, I want to request your help for something. Chi Wanqing seemed very delighted to see that Yemo accepted it, and immediately she said, Brother Yi, could you not call me that way? It sounds weird to me. Just call me Wanqing from now on, or my dad calls me Shaoqing, you could call me that way too. Okay, Wanqing, Yemo said helplessly. He just heard her teammates call her Chi Wanqing. As she heard Yemo calling her Wanqing, Chi Wanqing seemed jubilant. She completely forgot about going back and instead continued her questioning. Brother Yi, I heard from Gui Chi that you were trying to find something around here. Did you find it? Yemo shook his head and said, Not yet, but it should be nearby. There should be 2 evergreen trees in a valley. I think the valley might be this place, but I haven't seen any evergreen yet. Evergreen? I know. When we hid inside the valley, I saw a place with 2 evergreens. It isn't too far from here. Brother Yi, I'll take you there. Chi Wanqing suddenly felt pleased that she was able to help Yemo. Before Yemo could say anything, Lu Lin's voice resounded not far from where they were, and Chi Wanqing replied to her. Sister Lin, I have some business with Brother Yi, I'll be back soon. Her voice sounded crisp and touching. Lu Lin was astonished. Since when did Chi Wanqing have such a cheerful spirit? Her tone was full of joy. Wasn't she always really cold? Did they? Lu Lin shook her head and turned away. she couldn't understand Qi Wanqing's change no matter what. Qi Wanqing also stood up a bit shakily, but Yemo caught her and said, "I'll carry you." Yemo didn't have any ulterior motives. He just wanted to reach that place faster and see what that llama left behind. If he really could find large amounts of purple heart vine, it would be crucial to him. Thank you, Brother Yi. Qi Wanqing laid on Yemo's back without any protest. For her, since he had already seen her without her pants, carrying her wasn't such a big deal. She wasn't a shy girl, and Yemo highly approved of Qi Wanqing for that. He didn't know if all soldiers were so frank. There were 2 twirls of softness on his back, and although it was very comfortable, Yemo didn't think about doing anything else at all. Captain Lu, did Brother Yi carry Qi Wanqing on her back? Did I see wrong? Fang Wei stared at Yemo and Qi Wanqing with his eyes wide open. He rubbed his eyes. Qi Wanqing, who always didn't like talking to male squad members and was even constantly cold, actually let a man who she saw for the first time carry her on his back. This was too absurd. You didn't see wrong. Now hurry up and pack up these guns. They must have some business and will be back soon. Lu Lin said coldly. Guichi also saw Yemo and Qi Wanqing disappear and nodded. Brother Yi is a heroic man, although Wanqing is cold to people. Perhaps it's because she hadn't met the right one for her yet, and who knows, it might be Brother Yi. Chapter 59, Tibetan Characters. Chapter 59, Tibetan Characters. Right, it is here. Qi Wanqing was also happy. It was as though she helped Yemo do something remarkable. Yemo put Qi Wanqing down and walked in between the 2 evergreen trees, and indeed, he found a lump on the ground. He found a wooden stick and carefully picked open the soil. There were a dead person's bones surrounded by a few rocks, and beside him was a plastic bag that was covered very tightly. However, many places in the plastic bag were starting to corrode. Yemo slowly picked the plastic bag with the stick and looked beside the bones, but found nothing else. The llama must have placed this plastic bag in his clothes around the chest, and after the body had started to corrode, it fell off. Therefore, Fan Nan couldn't see it at the time. He slowly picked open the plastic bag, and inside was a map made out of the skin of a goat that was also starting to rot. However, this goatskin map seemed to have been specially made. Although it was rotting, the content on it could still be read clearly. Yemo stared carefully at the goatskin map for a while, and what looked like to be a desert appeared to have been drawn on it. There were even some characters that Yemo didn't recognize. Just when Yemo was troubled over the map of the desert and those strange characters, a faint aroma traveled into his nose, and a few strands of hair fell on his neck, making him a bit itchy. Yemo immediately realized that Qi Wanqing was looking at this map from behind him. Yemo moved aside and said with a troubled face, "I don't know these characters, and now I can't even move the map, or it would probably shatter into pieces." Because Yemo moved aside, Qi Wanqing immediately realized her intimate position. She was a bit awkward when she heard Yemo's words and hurriedly say, "Brother Yi, I know these characters. They're Tibetan characters. My grandfather stayed in Tibet for a long time before. He taught me these words. Wanqing, do you really understand these words? Hurry and tell me." Yemo was planning on to remember these words completely, but now that Qi Wanqing knew, he was immediately delighted. "The characters on there are incomplete, but I can read a few: Ku Lake, Taklamakan, Luo Bu, and Holy Door. However, I think that Taklamakan is probably referring to the biggest desert in our country, the Taklamakan Desert. This desert is also called the Sea of Death, and it is situated in southern Xinjiang in the Darim Basin. This map should be pointing there, and the route really looks like to be leading to the Darim Basin." Qi Wanqing interpreted all the characters on the map. However, due to the fractured nature of the map, the interpretation wasn't complete. However, she added in her own understanding. After hearing her words, Yemo mumbled to himself, "So that's where it leads. Looking at the direction on the map, it really does guide to that place. Got it, thank you, Wanqing." Qi Wanqing smiled sweetly and said, Actually, I'm really happy that I could help you do some things. You don't need to thank me, I didn't really thank you before as well. Oh, that's true. Guillermo laughed and put the map and plastic back into the ditch and buried the bones again. When Guillermo carried Chi Wanqing back again, Guichi and the others had already organized the battle loots. Chi Wanqing suddenly felt that the eyes with which her teammates looked at her were a bit different. She wanted to explain things but didn't know how to explain. Guillermo put Chi Wanqing down and said, I need to go, let's separate here. Huh, Brother Yi, you are leaving? Hearing that Guillermo was leaving them, Chi Wanqing suddenly felt a bit disappointed. Lu Lin looked at Chi Wanqing and suddenly said to Guillermo, Guillermo, once you leave, I will need to carry Wanqing, but when I can't, she will need Fang Wei and Guichi to carry her. What's that got to do with me? Guillermo just trailed off, feeling Chi Wanqing's imploring look. He remembered how she had helped him this time, and how without her, even if he could remember the characters, he wouldn't know where to find someone who can translate for him. He didn't have much to do now, so he might as well go with them for a bit longer. Thinking about this, Guillermo said, Fine, in that case, I'll go with you guys for a bit longer. Wanqing, come on, let's move. Master, you call her in such an intimate way. Fang Wei walked over cheekily and said. Guillermo swiped his hand and said, Stop, I never told you that I was going to take you in as my disciple. Hearing that Guillermo was willing to go with her a bit longer, Chi Wanqing rejoiced and hummed in approval before immediately laying on Guillermo's back without any hesitation. Sigh, Wanqing, at least be a bit more reserved. Look at you, you just got on straight away, what can I say about you? Lu Lin looked at her with a shaming glare. Guillermo quickly said, Captain Lu, don't say random things, there's nothing between us. I only just knew her just like you guys. Chi Wanqing was blushing and didn't dare to talk. She asked herself what she was doing just then. However, Guillermo was the first person of the opposite sex other than her father that gave her a good feeling. She had been in the military for 3 years, so what sort of elites haven't she seen? Yet, never had anyone been able to leave her any impression, but today, this Guillermo, who she saw for the first time, was able to leave an impression in her heart. Although she was very cold to people, she wasn't a reserved person due to her family influence. She wasn't good at masquerading her emotions, or maybe she simply didn't want to, so if she felt good about someone, then she did, and if she didn't, she didn't. If she didn't have this personality, she wouldn't have had a big argument with her family and left for the military herself. Therefore, she was very happy that Guillermo stayed. If Sister Lin didn't make him stop, she would have found a way to do so herself. When she was in university, her grandmother told her, Do not miss the opportunity only to regret it in the future. Guillermo's eyes were clear and didn't have those obscure intentions that she didn't like. The main thing was that Guillermo saved her, and he seemed to be really strong. For Chi Wanqing, Guillermo was a pearl hidden amongst the grass. Since she discovered him, there was no reason to reject the idea of pursuit. Although he seemed really desolate now, one day, he would soar high into the sky. Of course, this wasn't the main reason that she had a good feeling toward Guillermo. It was mainly that Guillermo had something on him that she longed for, this serenity, freedom and this unexplainable spiritual cleanliness. She liked that feeling on him. It was something that couldn't be expressed with words. Knowing Chi Wanqing's cold personality, Guichi didn't joke around with her even after Lu Lin said it. Guichi was very respectful towards Guillermo. In his eyes, Guillermo was truly a man with great ability who kept a low profile. The forest between the borders of China and Yu was massive. Other than Captain Lu, who only carried Guillermo's bag and felt that it was light, Guichi and Fang Wei were all carrying tens of guns and the bone ashes of the 2 other squad members and were slightly struggling. They only walked for an hour or so before it was dusk and decided to camp for one night before leaving. Because Lu Lin and the others were ambushed, they had lost a lot of things while escaping, so now, only Guillermo had a tent in his bag. This tent could only be given to Lu Lin and Chi Wanqing. Guillermo and the other 2 could only sleep outside. However, Guichi and Fang Nan were obviously experienced in outdoor survival. Soon, they cleared out a big patch of space and even set up a wooden tent. Chapter 60, Green-Eyed Small Snake. Chapter 60, Green-Eyed Small Snake. Elder Brother Yi, the tent is a bit shabby, but it's ready. At night Xiang Fang and I will be responsible for night duties. How about you go in and have a rest first? Guichi came out and said. Yemo smiled and said, No need, you can leave the night guard duty to me. I like it outside at night. By the way, Brother Gui, you're older than me, so just call me Yemo from now on. Yemo felt that Guichi was a good person and valued team spirit, which made him want to be friends with him. He didn't like those heartless people. Okay, then I won't be too polite to you. However, you don't need to call me Brother Gui as well. The people in the army call me De Chi, you can also call me that too. It's my honor to know you as a friend. No, I mean brother. What do you think, Brother Yi? Guichi was a frank person and didn't hesitate. Yemo nodded and said, This is great. Thinking that Yemo was roasting rabbits in the forest leisurely, Guichi didn't insist. After all these days, he indeed was tired and went to rest with Fang Wei. Inside the tent, Lu Lin looked at the contemplative Qi Wanqing and asked, Wanqing, what do you think of this Yemo? Huh? Qi Wanqing, who was still immersed in her own thought, was caught off guard. But after her surprised exclamation, she quickly caught on and remained silent for a while before saying, I think Brother Yi is a good person, he's really powerful and has some kind of. Qi Wanqing repeated that for a long time but still didn't finish articulating the words. Some kind of feeling I long for. Wanqing, you've come to the military for about 3 years and of course I know why you came, but when women get older they need to find some place to belong to, yet you've never shown a good face to any men in the military. 3 years ago, you were trying to avoid your father trying to marry you, or perhaps it was due to your mother. However, it has been 3 years already. Are you really prepared to be like this for your entire life? Sometimes, when fortune comes, you must not reject it. Lu Lin sighed. After a few moments, she continued. That year, I just finished high school and was 19 years old, at the prime of my youth. I just started work at the State Literacy Department where I met him. He was a handsome man. Not just me, but the other girls in our department liked him. However, he was really nice to me. He asked me out multiple times and, half a year later, he even proposed to me. At that time, I was just 19 years old, and I didn't know what to do when a 27-year-old man proposed to me. Although I liked him very much, I could only tell him I was still so young and asked him to wait. Half a year later, on my 20th birthday, he proposed to me once again. I still wanted to wait because I really felt I was still young and didn't dare to form a family. However, from that day on, I never saw him again. He had left. I waited for another year but still haven't heard any news of him. At that time, I thought, as long as he appeared, I was willing to marry him immediately. However, he never appeared again, and I no longer had the will of working there again, so I came to the military. Wanqing, sometimes there is only one chance. If you lose it, there will be no more. There's no wrong in trusting me. I've seen all sorts of people in the military. Yemo doesn't seem like a sly person. His eyes aren't dodgy, he's just a little poor. With your family wealth, would you really care if he was wealthy or poor? Besides, there is the adage of not looking down on a youth who is poor. I think that if you really liked wealthy families, you wouldn't have rejected your families will that time and came to the military. Lu Lin sighed contemplatively as if remembering what happened those years ago. Sister Lin, my feelings toward Brother Yi aren't what you say it is. My feelings are, sigh, I don't know how to explain it. I'll go check on Brother Yi. After saying that, Qi Wanqing was preparing to walk out of the tent. Wanqing, you can walk on your leg now? Lu Lin pointed at Qi Wanqing's leg and said in surprise. Yes, actually after Brother Yi treated me, it wasn't long before I could walk. It was just that it would hurt after some time. Speaking up to here, Qi Wanqing seemed to have thought of something and didn't dare to continue speaking as she rushed outside. She suddenly felt a burning sensation on her face as though she had been caught out. Seeing Qi Wanqing running out of the tent, Lu Lin seemed to be lost in thought. Wanqing looked like herself all those years ago, But Yemo didn't seem like the man she met at all. At this moment, Yemo was sitting on a rock not far away, contemplating. He was using his spirit sense to make out the map he saw today. Yemo had thought of the lines on the map countless times. Gathered with the words Qi helped him interpret today, it was indeed the Taklamakan Desert. Although he hadn't been there yet, he had analyzed the map of China closely and roughly knew the main regions. However, he really had no idea where the Ku Lake was, and even what that holy door was supposed to be. He knew clearly about the purple heart vine. It was a spirit wood that was used in many of the pills used during the Qi gathering state. Although it didn't have strict growth conditions, it would definitely not grow in the desert because the most important condition for the growth of these types of spirit wood was water. The Taklamakan Desert was the biggest desert in China, and its average yearly precipitation was less than 100 millimeters. During the worst years, there were barely a few millimeters of water. Although Yemo was deep in thought, he knew immediately when Qi came out. He smiled and thought that even though the girl looked cold, she seemed to be growing on him. Just when Qi didn't know how to speak to Yemo, she saw him turning around, smiling at her, which relieved her, as she quickly walked up to him. However, when Qi walked behind Yemo, her face suddenly changed. A gray snake with a pair of eyes that flashed green lights was actually charging toward Yemo from behind him. Not good! Qi heard that triangular-headed snakes were poisonous. However, this snake was not only triangular-headed but a sharp triangular. Without even thinking, Qi jumped toward Yemo's back. The moment the green-eyed, triangular-headed snake attacked, Yemo felt it. If Qi didn't charge over, he had a way to avoid it. But now if he wanted to drag Qi out of the way too, that would be impossible. The green-eyed snake almost arrived at the same time as Qi. She was just behind Yemo, while this green-eyed snake came from a few meters away, yet they would arrive at the same time. From this, it could be seen how fast this snake was. The gray snake accurately bit Qi back, which shocked Yemo, but he wasn't too worried as he thought that he could cure a poisonous snake bite. He turned and carried Qi in his arms. Yemo saw the green-eyed snake posed not far away, wanting to attack a second time and appeared to be targeting him this time. Anger surged up in Yemo as he raised his hand and 3 metal nails flew out. Slip, slip. Unfortunately, none of the nails managed to pierce the snake's head. 2 of them glided off from its skin, and only one managed to scratch out a bloody gash. The green-eyed snake seemed to recognize that this person wasn't easy to mess with and slithered away, disappearing almost immediately. Not good! This wasn't just a simple snake. Yemo realized it as Qi face had already become gray. Such intense poison. Yemo knew things were growing dire. At this moment, Lu Lin and Guichi were already coming his way. Seeing the situation, they all knew that a venomous snake had bitten Qi. If only there were a spirit herb. If there was one, he could use it to recover her life essence. But unfortunately, his silver heart grass was gone, and the ones he just grew hadn't even germinated yet. After a brief moment, he remembered the section of purple heart vine he had obtained recently, and thought that he might still be able to cure Qi using it. Thinking that his lucky meeting with a small section of a purple heart vine was going to be eaten by Qi, Yemo was a bit unwilling to give it up. After all, if the silver heart grass couldn't be successfully grown, this vine would be of great use to him. However, thinking about how Qi was in this state because of him, Yemo still decided to use the purple heart vine. Anyway, could he really watch her die and not save her when he had the means to? If Shuaigwa didn't mind giving this plant to him, why couldn't he, Yemo, give it to others? Was he, Yemo, a status higher than others? Thinking about this, Yemo felt ashamed of himself. Just when Yemo took out the purple heart vine and was thinking of a way to turn it into a serum for Qi, he suddenly remembered that he had only eaten the silver heart grass for around a month. There would definitely still be some of the medicinal powers of the silver heart grass remaining in his blood. Plus, even if it wasn't the case, he was a cultivator, and there were constantly spirit chi in his blood, so it might even have a better effect than the purple heart vine. After all, Qi Wanqing couldn't straight up digest the purple heart vine, and she still needed Yi Mo's help in digestion, which was too troublesome. Thinking about this, Yi Mo slit his wrist without hesitation and directed the flow of blood toward Qi Wanqing's mouth. At the same time, he used his cultivated qi to help Qi Wanqing digest the medicinal powers of his blood. Qi Wanqing's face gradually returned to normal with visible speed. The black lines withdrew along the original track and spurted out from the wound on her back. The black blood was gradually flowing out of the wound until it started turning red. Yi Mo felt relieved that it had worked. It seemed that the medicinal powers of the silver heart grass were not completely digested by his body. Qi Wanqing suddenly felt a weird taste and opened her eyes. However, she saw Yi Mo's wrist trickling blood, and it was directly flowing into her mouth. It scared Qi Wanqing and made her scream as she hurriedly pushed Yi Mo's wrist away. As Yi Mo saw that Qi Wanqing was awake, and the venom of the bear cockroach had been cured, he also stopped the blood from flowing from his wrist. "Brother Yi, you made me drink your—" Qi Wanqing didn't dare to finish her sentence in shock. Yi Mo smiled and said, "It's all right, I often go to the hospital to donate blood. You had lost some blood, so it was necessary for me to donate some blood to you, so you don't need to worry about it. Perhaps I will need blood one day, and you can donate some for me as well." Yi Mo made it sound simple. It would be too complicated to tell her that there was some part of the silver heart grass remaining in his blood. Besides, she probably wouldn't understand these things that involve life essence and spirit chi. Although Qi Wanqing didn't react to the situation in time, she knew that being bitten by a snake shouldn't result in loss of blood. Furthermore, even if it was blood donation, it shouldn't be donated in such a way. She felt touched by Yi Mo donating blood to her. However, she forgot that she received this wound due to Yi Mo. "Thank you, Brother Yi." Qi Wanqing moved a little and now realized that she was still in Yi Mo's arms. Her face immediately grew hot. Yi Mo also realized the situation and hurriedly put Qi Wanqing down. "You're fine now, rest up for a while. That thing is very poisonous, I'll go look for it later." Yi Mo had a reason to search for that bear cockroach. Since there was a bear cockroach here, it meant that there might be some spirit herbs nearby, and besides, it was too rare to find a bear cockroach on Earth. This thing only usually appeared near places of dense spirit chi. However, Earth's spirit chi was relatively scarce. Seeing that Qi Wanqing's complexion returned to normal, Yi Mo reminded her, "Don't do something so dangerous next time. Did you know that I almost wasn't able to save you this time?" Yi Mo's meaning was that this all could have been avoided. If Qi Wanqing didn't charge over, the bear cockroach wouldn't have been able to land an attack on him. But if he had said this, it would seem a bit hurtful. After all, Qi Wanqing was trying to save him and didn't know that Yi Mo could dodge it. "No, if it happened again, I would still stop it. If you are poisoned, then it's all over. But if I am, you might still be able to save me." Although Qi Wanqing's voice was low, it was very firm. Yi Mo was stunned for a moment and felt touched. Then, he immediately said, "Nincompoop! If you are poisoned, I may not be able to save you. Today was very dangerous. You need to remember that next time." "What if I couldn't save you?" Qi Wanqing shook her head. "Brother Yi, I don't understand these things. You saved me, I just don't want you to be bitten from the bottom of my heart. Even if you can't save me, I would still do it if something similar happened again." As if scared of Yi Mo's reproach, her voice was getting smaller and smaller. Yi Mo sighed as he thought that this girl was really giving people a headache. He even doubted if he made the right choice in staying longer with them. Qi Wanqing's feelings towards him didn't seem to be as simple as repaying gratitude. Chapter 62. Why be used by her? Chapter 62. Why be used by her? When Yi Mo and Qi Wanqing came out, Lu Lin and the others had been worried sick waiting. They were relieved after seeing both coming out. This 6-man squad had already lost 2 members. If they lost Qi Wanqing here as well, it would be tragic. Besides, Qi Wanqing's identity wasn't ordinary. If something happened, Lu Lin's superior wouldn't be able to shoulder the consequences, much less Lu Lin. Luckily, they were fine now. Captain Lu, you guys rest for a bit first, I'm going to leave for a while. Yemo didn't wait for the other's reply and just went straight into the forest since he was interested in this bear cockroach. Usually, where the bear cockroach appeared, there were things like spirit herbs, and even if he couldn't find spirit herbs, it would still be good to capture this bear cockroach. Although bear cockroaches weren't spiritual beasts, it could bond with a master because it possessed some self-awareness, unlike other wild beasts that could only be kept as trained animals. Although this bear cockroach was useless to him, he could capture it and give it to Qi Wanqing. Qi Wanqing almost lost her life trying to save him just then. It was appropriate to find her a pet. Brother Yi, wait for me, I'll go with you. Qi Wanqing grabbed a torch and suddenly followed him. Guichi was just about to stop Qi Wanqing but was pulled by Lu Lin. Didn't you see that Qi Wanqing's is quite stuck to Yemo? Her cold personality is because of her family. But Yemo isn't an ordinary person, so he should be able to take care of Qi Wanqing. Don't stop her. Lu Lin paused for a moment then continued. If someone like Yemo could join our Eagle Hunter squad, there wouldn't be a squad in the entire army that could triumph against us. Guichi shook his head. You said it yourself that he isn't an ordinary person, so I'm certain that he definitely won't join the army. Furthermore, I feel like he isn't someone who likes to be restrained, and perhaps only freedom is best suited for him. After pausing for a moment, Guichi continued. He may seem to wear simple clothes and is very casual in his mannerism. However, I believe that he is a proud person. Although his pride isn't like ordinary people's pride which is shown on their face or hidden in their hearts, it is natural. He neither flaunts it nor conceals it. Perhaps even the wealthiest of second-generation youngsters clad in their best designer garments would feel inferior, like a mere side character, standing next to him. Brother Fang, how were you even able to get someone as strong as him to help us? Fang Wei asked with admiration. Ever since Yemo saved him, he had a great admiration for him and constantly wanted to become his disciple. Guichi smiled and simply answered. I just said that we're all Chinese people, and just like that he agreed. Brother Yi, wait for me. Qi Wanqing called out and followed. Yemo stopped and looked at Qi Wanqing. Why did you come over? This place is quite dark, and the moon isn't especially bright tonight, so it is still quite dangerous here. I'm going out to find something, but I'm coming back later. Your wound just healed, why did you come over? Hurry and go back. Brother Yi, I guess that you definitely won't join our squad afterwards, so, when you leave, I wouldn't know when I would be able to see you again. I want to stay with you for a little while longer. Perhaps due to never having any friends of the opposite sex, Qi Wanqing was greatly dependent on Yemo, who had saved her life twice in a single day. Yemo was astonished for a moment. He felt that Qi Wanqing was over-reliant on him, which didn't suit her identity as a soldier. Perhaps she went to the army due to other reasons, but he didn't want to ask about that at this point. He just wanted to say, Idiot, I can come back and see you later. But when the words came to his mouth, he stopped. Would he really come back to see her after he left? That was impossible. His and Qi Wanqing's path were completely different. They had no intersections in life. How could they see each other again? Thinking about this, Yemo sighed and said, Fine, follow me then. After all, if he really captured the bear cockroach, he was going to give it to Qi Wanqing, and he had to make the ownership bond with Qi Wanqing. Thanks, Brother Yi. Then, she excitedly grabbed Yemo's arm, and Yemo simply shook his head. Qi Wanqing was obviously still a naive girl, so it should have been really hard for her to come to the army and keep a cold face on every day. Perhaps, school life was the most suitable for her. How many years have you been in the army? Why don't you go to school anymore? Yemo asked. In my second year of university, my grandpa forced me to marry a person I didn't like. I refused, but that person came to my school, and when I tried to speak about it to my father, he actually agreed with Grandpa. So I ran out secretly to find Uncle Jiang and joined the army. I never went back again, Qi Wanqing said dejectedly. Emo was speechless. Why did these people all like to use marriage to strengthen their power? No matter where it was, these things continued to happen. But you can't stay in the army for your whole life, can you? When you go back, you will still be forced into decisions by your dad and granddad, Emo said. I don't want to go back. My mom often comes to see me, and she also helped me open. Wan-Ching shut her mouth just in time. She almost said that the company she wanted Emo to go earlier was hers and not her cousin. Then, she suddenly asked, Brother Yi, someone as outstanding as you should have a girlfriend already, right? Emo smiled as he said, I'm a jobless wandering person. How can I be outstanding? Girlfriend? I don't have one, but I do have a wife, hee. Ah, you're married? Wan-Ching suddenly felt hollow in her heart, a sudden sense of loss that just couldn't be described. Emo didn't notice Wan-Ching's state and explained, She should be about the same as you. She didn't want to marry someone else, so she faked her marriage to me. I'm just helping her out. If one day you want me to help you, I would be happy to do so. Emo laughed at himself. What? Brother Yi, you have a fake marriage, and that woman is using you? How could there be such a bad woman? Wan-Ching immediately felt indignant upon hearing this. A woman would even use someone like Brother Yi. She thought and said, Brother Yi, why would you let yourself be used by her? Just ignore such women. Why be used by her? Yemo's complexion suddenly seemed gloomy. He thought about his poor master Luoying and didn't know how she was doing now. As long as there was the slightest sliver of Luoying's image, he was willing to be used. The reason he helped Ning Qingxue might be hidden in the depth of his heart, but he hoped that if one day his master was in trouble, there would be someone like him willing to help her. Sorry, Brother Yi, I won't ask you. Wan-Ching saw Yemo's look of melancholy and immediately understood that he must have had some special reason to do so. Emo was surprised as he bent over and looked at a mushroom that was partly consumed. There really was spirit herbs here. Although the Yi mushrooms weren't spirit herbs, they still contained small amounts of spirit chi which seemed to have attracted the bear cockroach. What's wrong, Brother Yi? Wan-Ching saw Emo stop and asked. Don't say a word, I can already see it. Yemo's spirit sense locked onto the bear cockroach a few meters away. It had also obviously noticed Emo. However, it didn't move, as it seemed to be sure that Emo wouldn't be able to discover him no matter what and therefore wasn't scared. Chapter 63, Departure. Chapter 63, Departure. Wan-Ching, come to my left side. Emo made Wan-Ching move to his left side because the right side was where the bear cockroach was hiding. This guy was hiding under a rock with his eyes staring at Emo and Wan-Ching. Not only did he not escape, but he was instead trying to find an opportunity to attack Emo. Of course, Wan-Ching didn't know what Emo had meant, but since Emo told her to go left, she immediately went on the other side. Emo knew that the bear cockroach was sly, so he pulled Wan-Ching, pretending not to see it moving past by its side. The bear cockroach saw Emo showing his back, so it slowly moved closer toward him and was prepared to suddenly attack him when he was the closest possible to its position. Why being so careful? Wan-Ching asked quietly. Emo didn't answer but suddenly turned and made a grabbing move with his hands in midair. His movements were extremely fast, so much so that Wan-Ching wasn't even able to react. Gee! With a sharp shriek, the bear cockroach that jumped and attacked Emo was caught in his hands in midair, as though it had placed itself there. If Emo didn't use some chi in his hands, he really wouldn't have been able to catch this fast creature. Feeling the intense struggle of the bear cockroach, Emo immediately said, Wan-Ching, hurry up and bite open the tip of your finger. Quick, this thing is really strong. The bear cockroach knew it was tricked and struggled more fiercely. If he didn't catch it with his own hands, Emo definitely wouldn't have thought that it could have such power, and this was only a young bear cockroach. Wan-Ching saw the green eye and immediately felt scared. Cold sweat trickled down her body. She wasn't really scared about herself, but about Emo getting bitten, However, hearing Yemo's yell, she quickly reacted and, although she didn't know the reason why, she still quickly bit open her finger. Meanwhile, Yemo took out a knife and slit open a gash in the middle of its head. As blood trickled out, Yemo held Chi Wanqing's finger and dropped the blood from her fingertip into the gash. His hands continuously made different hand signs, as though he was using some magical art on the little snake-like creature. Chi Wanqing looked at Yemo's actions in shock and didn't dare to speak. She could already see the sweat beads trickle from Yemo's forehead and wanted to wipe them for Yemo, but she was scared that she would interrupt him, especially since she had no idea what Yemo was doing. His hand gestures seemed mysterious, as though it was mystical. However, Chi Wanqing believed in him. The struggling bear cockroach gradually calmed down before eventually stopping. After being dropped by Yemo, it immediately ran towards Chi Wanqing's feet. But not only that, it even used its sharp head and rubbed itself against Chi Wanqing's shoe as though a sign of intimacy. Chi Wanqing was just staring tensely at Yemo and didn't expect this snake to run over so suddenly, and was evidently frightened. Luckily, Yemo's voice resounded in time. "Now it has been subdued by me, but because you don't have a spirit sense, you can only make it understand you through words. Don't worry, it won't attack anyone unless you give the order to." Yemo knew Chi Wanqing wasn't a cultivator and therefore didn't have a spirit sense, so although he made the bear cockroach sign a slave pact with her, she could only command it through words. It would take a long time for her to be able to command it only with her will. "Ha, Brother Yi, how do you know something like this? It sounds weird and mystical." As Chi Wanqing saw that the bear cockroach really didn't seem to have the intention to attack her, she was finally able to calm her heart. Yemo smiled and said, "This is the method used amongst common people, and I have learned a bit of it. However, you can't train every animal with this. It's only doable for a few special animals, and this bear cockroach is one of them." "Bear cockroach?" Chi Wanqing didn't think that this snake-looking thing had such a strange name. "I'll call it Little Wolf from now on. It won't bite others, right?" Chi Wanqing suddenly found it interesting but was still worried about the ferocity of the bear cockroach. Not everyone could save someone bitten by that creature like Yemo did with her. "It won't." Yemo knew that even without taming it, it wouldn't bite ordinary people, as it was mostly attracted to Chi, much less after signing the slave pact with her. He thought for a moment and continued, "From now on, you just need to feed it some bamboo shoots, or you can allow it to find food itself. Most people wouldn't even be able to shadow of the bear cockroach anyway." Yemo and Chi Wanqing returned to the campsite, and when the others saw the creature, they were amazed that Yemo was able to capture such a strong pet for Chi Wanqing. They kept observing the bear cockroach, and eventually, Lu Lin suggested that Chi Wanqing should make a small linen bag to keep the bear cockroach close to her. Originally, Yemo was planning to leave after accompanying them out of the forest. However, because of Chi Wanqing, Yemo didn't even mention leaving once but simply continued to follow the group. Although Chi Wanqing really liked staying on Yemo's back, she had completely recovered now and felt embarrassed to continue staying on his back, so she got off and walked herself. In the next few days, Yemo would teach some techniques to Fan Wei each day, and, later on, Gui Qi and Lu Lin also came to learn. The things Yemo taught were all easy to learn and very practical. He even taught them some simple breathing techniques. Although they wouldn't be able to cultivate Qi with this, if they persisted for some time, they would be able to produce some inner force. "Sister Qi, why don't you come and learn?" That night, after Gui Qi had set up a simple place for them to stay and the time to learn from Yemo was coming, since Fan Wei saw that Chi Wanqing wasn't coming, he invited her. Lu Lin smacked Fan Wei on the head. "Wanqing will be taught privately by Yemo, what are you blabbering about?" Chi Wanqing, who was just playing with Little Wolf, immediately blushed. She looked at Yemo once but didn't even try to explain anything. Yemo smiled faintly but didn't rebuke Lu Lin's words. However, he didn't have the intentions of teaching Chi Wanqing privately. Maybe if there were a pen and some paper, he would probably write some breathing techniques for her, but since there weren't any, he gave up on the thought. Yemo had a great impression of Chi Wanqing since she was willing to risk her life to save him. Besides, even though Qi Wanqing was in the army, she seemed to stick to him quite heavily. However, only Yemo knew that nothing would happen between him and Qi Wanqing, as he already had Luoying in his heart, and no matter how extraordinary other girls were, they wouldn't be able to capture his heart. The only reason he caught a bear cockroach for her was to repay her for saving his life. Nevertheless, the bear cockroach was quite an important thing to Yemo now, since after all, his power wasn't quite high right now, and a lot of people were stronger than him. With the help of bear cockroach, he would be much safer. However, in order to repay Qi Wanqing's goodwill, he still gave it to her. On the 11th day, this temporary team had finally encountered people who had come to meet the squad. Therefore, Yemo was going to bid them farewell. Brother Yi, if you have time, you really need to remember to help my cousin at Luotsang. Qi Wanqing couldn't let him go the most and felt as though she lost something when Yemo left. However, she didn't have any valid reason to make him stay. She could only hope that Yemo would go to the company her mother gave her, and perhaps she would find an opportunity to leave the army and go back there too. Yemo felt helpless as he saw Qi Wanqing's expectant look. He couldn't bear to disappoint her, so he could only nod to agree. However, he knew that after separating with them this time, it would probably be very hard for them to see each other again, because he needed at least a few years' time to cultivate his silver heart grass. Seeing Yemo's back gradually disappear into the forest, Qi Wanqing suddenly felt a deep sense of loss and disappointment in her heart. Her mood reached rock bottom once again. Seeing those seeds made Yemo calmer. However, he realized that even if that event didn't happen, he wouldn't be able to grow the silver heart grass here, because the few seeds he had found were all rotten and didn't have any signs of germination. It seemed that this silver heart grass could only be cultivated in certain places. He didn't even know why the place he had been living at before could grow a silver heart grass. Take me to Fang Nan. Yemo turned around and said coldly to Rock. His face had returned to complete calm. Fang Nan was extremely devastated right now and was hiding in a far-off cave. Including Rock, only 6 people were remaining. As he saw Yemo walking in, Fang Nan struggled to get up with a face filled with guilt. From Yemo's attitude toward the place, he could see how important it was for him, yet not only was he unable to guard it, but the place was also destroyed because of him. If something similar were to happen again, he would never allow his brothers to take him there to hide. Seeing Fang Nan struggling to get up with guilt in his eyes, Yemo only waved his hand. This isn't your fault. Let me have a look at your wound first. Fang Nan had been injured during a gunfight. Although he was shot twice, it was not a problem for Yemo to heal him at all, and, in less than half an hour, he had already treated Fang Nan's wounds completely. I'm going to have a look around Flowing Snake to see who destroyed my stuff. You can rest up here in the meantime. You will be able to return to Flowing Snake at night. When he saw that Fang Nan was better, Yemo stood up and, as he was about to leave, the tone he expressed himself with made everyone who heard him frigid. Fang Nan immediately said, Brother Yi, this thing was caused by me, so even if I die, I can't let you go to Flowing Snake while I sleep here. Yemo smiled faintly. In that case, you can come with me. To him, these gangs formed by desperados really didn't have nothing to do with him. There wouldn't be a problem even if Fang Nan came with him. Flowing Snake. Inside the semicircle stone house that originally belonged to Fang Nan, the Yu gang and the Fei gang that had encircled the border of China were also here. The big boss of the Yu gang spoke in a fluent Chinese. I've long despised that Fang Nan from the Pu Dao clan. Although we didn't manage to kill him, we kicked him out of Flowing Snake this time, which makes me feel at ease. We were really fortunate to have Boss Pooh this time. Come, with this glass, I now represent the Yu gang to toast in your honor. All right, but we will also be living in Flowing Snake in the future, and we hope Supreme Chancellor Wang will help us out a little. The boss of the Fei gang sitting on the opposite side of the Yu gang with black skin. Although he was speaking Chinese, he was stuttering a little. He obviously knew that he wouldn't be able to live at Flowing Snake if he couldn't even speak Chinese. Supreme Chancellor Wang smiled and replied, No worries, no worries. We each take half of the land and business left behind by Fong Nan, since it is what we had already agreed beforehand. This Supreme Chancellor Wang was the leader of the Yu gang, Wang Xian. He didn't like to be referred to as gang leader, and instead preferred the title Supreme Chancellor. Under such discussions, the atmosphere in the room was extremely cheerful. Thud! Thud! However, two discordant sounds disrupted the scene as two bodies fell on the table where the two gang leaders had just drunk a toast. These were the bodies of the two guards outside. In that instant, the entire room became deadly silent, yet quickly the tens of people in the room reacted and started flourishing their weapons, preparing for the upcoming battle. Who are you? Why did you kill my men for no reason? Supreme Chancellor Wang had his hands on his pistol. No matter what, this person killed his men, so he was going to make him pay for it. Yemo sneered and scanned the people in the room. There were about 40 to 50 people, with more than 10 people with a black skin and 2 were white. After taking a glance at the people in the room, he simply asked, "Did you destroy the temple I was living at? He actually came for a broken-down pagoda?" The face of Supreme Chancellor Wang darkened and pulled out his hand as he yelled, "Brothers, fire! Finish this son of AB*TCH! Chapter 65, What is Really Cruel? Chapter 65, What is Really Cruel? Thud! 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 4 consecutive sounds of broken bones could be heard as the 4 quickest men who charged at Yemo were kicked flying. It would be extremely hard to tell which one received the first kick, and even those with good eyes were only able to see a few blurred kicks. The rest of the men who wanted to charge up were knocked by these 4 people and crashed into the stone wall. Everyone else froze, wondering how the man could be so strong as the damages dealt were already so big. A youth behind the leader of the Yu gang reacted quickly by taking out a gun with the intent to shoot at Yemo. However, a light gust of wind blew past him, and before his fingers could even touch the trigger, there was a bloody hole on his forehead as he collapsed on the ground, and died with his eyes wide open. Silence. At this moment, no one even dared to make the slightest move. This man came to the door and killed 5 people in a few breaths of time, and this didn't even include the 2 he had killed at the door before. He killed that many people, but they didn't even see him move once? The leader of the Yu gang finally caught on the situation. He realized that this young man was a dangerous one, and was definitely one of these special masters, so he hurriedly said, "Friend, there must be a misunderstanding between us. Although we damaged that pagoda, we really didn't know that place was yours. Please, I'm willing to pay double for your losses." Yemo sneered and raised his hand. The 2 black men from the Yu gang who wanted to open fire had suddenly a hole appearing in each of their foreheads as they fell to their death. Meanwhile, the pistols in their hands flew out a long distance away. This time, Wang Xian managed to catch a glimpse of his movement. The young man barely raised his hands, but this simple movement resulted in 2 immediate deaths. The objects he shot out seemed to be faster than bullets. This person was too strong. Pay for my losses? Can you even afford it? Besides, you hurt my friend Fong Nan and killed his men. Even if you could afford it, I'll make you go back to where you came from today. Yemo didn't waste any more time talking as the metal nails in his hands flew out like hail. There were a lot of people, and Yemo's spirit sense wasn't powerful enough right now. If everyone attacked him at the same time, his spirit sense wouldn't be able to cover it all, and he might be injured. Since he was planning to fight anyway, he might as well get rid of a few men before they could react. "Brothers, kill him!" In an extremely short period of time, more than 10 people had already died. After that yell, Wang Xian hid behind the others and looked for a window from which he could escape from. Wang Xian had initially thought that this stone house was grandiose, but because of the situation they were in right now, it became the place he loathed the most. If it had been some other house, there would probably have been a back door or a hidden passage in case of an emergency like this. However, not only there weren't a single door he could use to escape, but the windows inside that stone house were so tight that it would be extremely complicated for a man to go through. His only choice was to try pulling out one of the windows, but even after a long time, he still wasn't able to move it. Blood was spewed, and the sound of gunshots and knives clashing into each other was resounding all over the stone house. The scene quickly erupted into pandemonium. However, Yemo guarded the door and didn't let a single person escape. Although Yemo had a spirit sense and he attacked very fast, usually killing those with guns first while dodging the flying knives, there were simply too many people attacking him. His spirit sense couldn't cover it all, and he wasn't able to avoid one bullet that lodged itself in his leg. However, at the same time he had been shot, the shooter was killed by Yemo. Although the gun wound wasn't serious enough to threaten his life, it seriously annoyed Yemo, and the metal nails started to fly out even faster. A few minutes later, the rustling noise in the room stopped. Other than Wang Xian, who was still trying to pick the window open, even the leader of the Yu gang was laying on the ground, dead. The stone house was full of bodies, and yet, there weren't much blood stains. This was because Yemo always took care of them with one nail. Yemo took out the bullet lodged in his leg and treated his wound. Then, he stared coldly at Wang Xian near the window and said, "I don't think you need to try anymore. Do you think you can still escape now?" Hearing Yemo's words, Wang Xian suddenly looked behind him. Immediately, his hands and feet went cold. A single thought lingered in his mind. What sort of person did I offend? More than 40 people against one, but none of them lived. Well, it's more like other than him, everyone else had been killed. It took him a long time before he could even say another word. "Please have mercy on me. I'm willing to give you everything I have, and I am also willing to be your subordinate." Wang Xian had killed countless people, but when it was his turn, he finally realized death was such a scary thing. "Fan Nan, I'll leave this to you. You can deal with this one." Yemo turned back to leave. Fan Nan and a few of his henchmen were waiting outside nervously, and when he heard Yemo calling out to him, he asked his men to help him go inside. At this moment, Yemo had already left. Fan Nan looked at the scene in the room and couldn't close his mouth for a long time. The room was full of bodies, except for Wang Xian, who was shaking right now. Fan Nan suddenly felt a cold shiver down his back as he thought, "What is cruel? This is really cruel." He had killed countless people but had never killed this much by himself, and yet Yemo left calmly as though nothing had happened. For him, murder was as simple as breathing. No wonder he scared so much someone as ruthless as Wang Xian that he couldn't stop shivering. When he killed, it was the brawls between gangs. It appeared to be very scary with blood flying around, but they were mostly light wounds, and not a lot of people died. There never had been someone who could kill the opponent's entire gang. However, Yemo had killed all of these people and yet still appeared like usual, as though he had just killed a few chickens. His face remained expressionless. Then, Fan Nan suddenly thought of the day when Yemo came to this place with him, and sweat ran down his back. If he had just acted a little tougher that day and had some bad intentions, there wouldn't be a Fan Nan in this world. Fan Nan had never seen someone so strong. At the same time, he had never seen someone so ruthless. Luckily, he respected Yemo from the bottom of his heart, and had tried to be friends with him, otherwise Fan Nan didn't even dare to think about it. "Leader Fang, have mercy, I'm willing to give you all of my assets. I just want you to spare my life." Wang Xian's plea interrupted Fan Nan's contemplation. "Immediately kill this bastard and clean up the bodies in the room. Rock, immediately come with me to see Brother Yi." Fan Nan left the things here to his men as he only wanted to check on Yemo. "Brother Yi." Fan Nan was carried by 2 men as he came to Yemo and called out to him respectfully. Originally, Yemo was just someone strong and mysterious in Fan Nan's eyes, who deserved his respect, but now, Yemo was more someone he feared. "Fan Nan." Yemo seemed to be deep in thought. "Brother Yi, I'm here." Fan Nan hurriedly replied. Thinking of a moment, Yemo said, "Originally, I was planning to live here for a while, but I didn't think that some things wouldn't go according to plan. So, I will simply leave." "Brother Yi, you're leaving?" "I can immediately help you build back the place that was destroyed," Fan Nan quickly said. He thought that Emo was leaving because the pagoda was destroyed. Emo waved his hand. Fan Nan, right now, you decide what happens in Flowing Snake. I know what you do to make a living, but don't cross the line. As for blocking the road and robbing, don't do it if you can. Business is easy at the national border. However, I hope you won't do any drug business. These sorts of things harm only yourself and the others. This is all I have to say. Perhaps I will come back one day. After finishing, Emo turned to leave without the slightest hesitation. He didn't want to stay at a place where the silver heart grass couldn't grow. Even if he had to hide from the Song family, he wouldn't do it at the price of inhibiting the progress of his cultivation. Fan Nan was a decent person and helped him out quite a lot, but if he couldn't even control Flowing Snake in its current state, then he wouldn't have the right to stay here. After Emo walked out a long distance, Fan Nan finally awoke and said, "Brother Yi, I definitely will do as you say." Emo didn't ask him for someone to escort him back, so he didn't dare to make that decision himself. Chapter 66. Where did he go? Chapter 66. Where did he go? Ning Qingxue had already bought the place where Emo used to live before. She felt that staying in Yu State was a torment, and wanted to find Emo, but she had no idea where he went. Ning Qingxue, who could no longer remain in Yu State, returned to Ninghai, and although she came back to this small yard once again and the place didn't change, the person wasn't there anymore. Su Wei didn't know that the property had been bought by Ning Qingxue, and still lived in her original room. However, recently, there were people constantly questioning her and investigating the surrounding, and eventually, they even took away all the surveillance computers. Su Wei had a feeling that this was related to Emo. Thinking back to the time she spent with Emo together, she just remembered that she didn't even know what Emo did. Su Wei, who just opened the door and was prepared to go out shopping, suddenly saw Ning Qingxue standing at the doorway by herself. She was stunned for a moment and asked subconsciously, "What are you doing here?" Ning Qingxue knew that Su Wei held a negative opinion of her, but she didn't feel that Su Wei was wrong. In her opinion, her understanding of Emo was even less than Su Wei. "I'm living here because the rental period isn't over." Ning Qingxue didn't want to let her know that she had bought the house. If she did say it, then Su Wei would probably move out of here immediately. However, Ning Qingxue wanted things to be the same as they had been before, yet she knew this was impossible. Even if everything else was the same as the original, Emo was no longer here. Su Wei wanted to say something to Ning Qingxue, but she didn't know what Emo and Ning Qingxue's relationship was like. Besides, Emo did pay for a year's rent here, so she didn't say anything in the end. However, she didn't want to stay any longer, so she left to pick up some groceries. Ning Qingxue went back to the room, looking at the place that looked exactly the same as before, which left her with an indescribable feeling of sadness. That bed, she was even laying down with Emo and took photos on it. She had even tried to go farther into the act, which had even been noticed by Li Mume at the time. Was that feeling before her true intentions? After sitting on the bed for a while, Ning Qingxue cleaned up the room, leaving everything exactly where they were. However, Emo's small medical case was still in her luggage. For her, that was perhaps the last thing that Emo left behind. She opened up Emo's medical case again, and finally, she couldn't resist to take out Emo's letter anymore. She had always resisted the temptation of opening it, but this time, after coming back to the place where she had lived with Emo, the temptation was too strong for her. As soon as she opened it, a beautiful yet strong handwriting entered her eyes. Yeah, what was her relationship with Emo? They were no longer engaged since the marriage was a fake. She had no relationship with Emo at all now, so what was she doing here? After a week, Su Wei astoundingly discovered that Ning Qingxue's lifestyle was shocking similar to Emo's. They were both very shy, and almost never went out. Furthermore, they had a similarity, which was their love of growing flowers. Ning Qingxue often watched beside the flower pots, and when she did, it was usually the whole day and actually didn't feel bored. The only difference was when Yemo lived here before, there was basically no one who came, but after Ning Qingxue lived here, that Li Mumei came quite a few times, and even someone called Su Jingwen came. Su Jingwen's beauty also gave Su Wei a little shock. She didn't know why there were suddenly so many beautiful women coming. In a private mansion of the Song family in Beijing, the manager of external matters, Song Hai, was immersed in staring at a map. A few days ago, he received a report saying that a youth looking strikingly similar to Yemo went into the town of Fengtang and went on a bus leaving toward Qi City. However, according to the driver, that person got off before even reaching Qi City. The place he got off was approximately in the Guixiang mountain range. However, the trail was cut off here once again. What Song Hai was staring at right now was the map of the Guixiang mountain range. This place was full of forests and mountains. If Yemo was really hiding there, it would be quite troublesome to find him. Ring, ring! Song Hai's phone rang and broke his train of thought. Song Hai frowned. He had exhausted himself mentally recently trying to find Yemo, and a phone call at this time made him feel uncomfortable. What is it? Song Hai picked up the phone and asked impatiently. Master Hai, Ning Qingxue from the Ning family had come to Ning Hai and moved into Yemo's previous home. What do we do now? Master Hai, please enlighten us. The phone came from the people he sent to Ning Hai in order to watch out for Yemo. However, he didn't think that they would be surveilling Ning Qingxue instead of Yemo's. Song Hai rubbed his head and replied after a while. Keep an eye on her, but don't make any move yet. If there still isn't any news in a few days, find a few hoodlums and take her away. Yes, Master Hai. A very straightforward voice responded. Song Hai put down the phone, and sneered as he talked to himself. I won't touch the Ning family for now, but can't I touch you, Ning Qingxue? You will see what happens next. Notes. 1. As a reminder, Jai means the habit of staying home constantly and not going out. You can find a similar term in a few Japanese novels. Hikikomori. If we don't treat her, she barely has a month to live. This was the conclusion drawn by the specialists in Ning Hai's best hospital. Even if I go bankrupt, I will make the perpetrator pay. Ning Zhongfei was furious. Ning Qingxue was his only daughter, and for her, he was even willing to break out with his father and his brothers. But now, his daughter was beaten to the ground. A 30-or-so-year-old looking woman just held Ning Qingxue's hand and cried. She was Ning Qingxue's mother, Lan Yu. Qingxue, I won't let you be in this state without doing nothing. After crying for a while, Lan Yu stood up and rubbed her red eyes. She looked at her husband and said, I will find Su Su and help Qingxue exact revenge. Even if the Song family was more powerful than the heavens, I wouldn't let this pass. Previously, every time his wife had talked about Su Su, Ning Zhongfei would try to persuade her, saying that Su Su was in the hidden power factions, and it wasn't suitable for her to come out. However, this time, Ning Zhongfei surprisingly didn't say anything. He just nodded with a stern face and said, No matter the costs, we can't let Qingxue be treated like this. Mom. Ning Qingxue opened her eyes for the first time, but as she saw that she was laying in a white room, she felt a heart-wrenching pain. Qingxue, you're awake. Lan Yu hurried over and grabbed her daughter's hand. I'm hurting so much. Ning Qingxue spoke, and sweat immediately cascaded down her face. Lan Yen felt pain in her heart as she knew that her daughter was suffering, not just physically, but inside her heart too. At this moment, she was hoping to be the one laying on the bed instead of her daughter. However, she could only console her. Qingxue, don't be afraid, Mom will cure you. Ning Qingxue shook her head with a struggle. I want to go home, Mom, take me to that yard. I know myself, I don't want treatment. Ning Qingxue was clear in her heart. With her injuries, even if she was cured, she would be laying on a bed for the rest of her life, in the best-case scenario. She harbored the will to die and didn't want to stay in the hospital. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to see Emo once before she died and apologize in front of his face. Qingxue, don't be impulsive. Listen to your mom, stay in the hospital, the doctors will definitely treat you. Rest assured, Mom will stay here with you. How could Lan Yu not know what her daughter was thinking? Her heart felt like it was getting sliced. Ning Qingxue wanted to shake her head, but she felt a sudden immense pain. However, she bit her teeth and said, Mom, can't you let me die with no regrets? I just want to return to that house, take me back. I'm begging you. She breathed and said, Mom, give me that little case. After she said that, Ning Qingxue closed her eyes. Her pain no longer allowed her to continue talking, and she fainted once again. Lan Yu stood up and wiped the tears from her eyes. Zhongfei, why does Qingxue want to live in that house ever since she came back? What exactly happened between her and Yemo? Ning Zhongfei shook his head and said after a while, This is our daughter's last wish, and since we can't save her completely in the hospital, we should send her back to that house. We'll do everything we can to find the best doctors in the meanwhile. As long as there's even a sliver of hope, I don't want to give up. Put that case beside her bed so she won't miss it when she wakes up. Lan Yu nodded and agreed with her husband's opinion. Yemo didn't go straight to Luo Tsang like Qi Wanqing had recommended. He wanted to see if he could find a job himself. If he really couldn't, then he would go work at Qi Wanqing's cousin's company. However, before this, he had to go to Ninghai and take away some soil from the flower pot in that house and take away his medical case. The reason he wanted to take some soil was for analysis. He wanted to find a laboratory and ask them to analyze the compound of the earth to understand as to why it could let the silver heart grass grow but not with the soil and flowing snake. Returning to Ninghai, Yimo estimated that at this time, Su Wei was probably still at work, so he sneaked into the house. But when Yemo walked beside the flower pots, there was a heart-wrenching blood stain. Although it was almost dry, it was obvious that it didn't happen long ago. Why was there so much blood on this flower pot? Chapter 68, Yemo's Return. Chapter 68, Yemo's Return. Yemo, you're back? A voice interrupted Yemo's concentration. He was stunned, looking at the blood stain, and didn't notice that Su Wei had come in. Su Wei, don't you have to work today? Yemo looked strangely at Su Wei. She was looking tired as she simply shook her head. Yesterday afternoon, Qingxue was injured and was sent to the hospital. Right now she is still in a critical condition. I just went there to see her. How come I didn't see you? Yemo was astonished. Ning Qingxue was attacked? How did Su Wei know that Ning Qingxue was attacked? Wondering about this, he asked. How do you know Ning Qingxue was attacked? You don't know? Su Wei looked at Yemo and asked intriguingly. She thought Yemo came back because Ning Qingxue was hurt but didn't expect him not to know anything at all. Yemo asked with a strange voice. If she was hurt, how would I know? Are her injuries serious? Although he didn't really have a good impression of Ning Qingxue, she looked really similar to his master, Luoyin, when she was melancholic, thus he still cared a bit about her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed to Ning Qingxue's request previously. Qingxue had always been living here, you tell me how I wouldn't know. Su Wei was certain that Yemo really didn't know that Ning Qingxue had been injured. Yemo frowned. Ning Qingxue had been living here? He had already left, so the act was over. Why would she still be living here? With her family's situation, how could she not have another place to live? Seeing that Yemo was lost in his thoughts, Su Wei spoke once again. After Qingxue had come, she had been living in your room and rarely went out. Every day, she would care for these flowers and sometimes, she would look at them from day to night. Ning Qingxue also liked flowers? Yemo looked at the flower pots in bewilderment. He liked flowers because he came here to grow the silver heart grass. Why would Ning Qingxue like to grow flowers? If she really liked it, why didn't he even see her come close to a flower pot for the 20 or so days he had been living with her? On the flower pot, one grass with some blood stain caught Yemo's attention. Although this grass just started to germinate, Yemo had already recognized that this was a silver heart grass, and the moment he saw the plant, Yemo was immediately excited. The earth here could not only grow the silver heart grass but also make it germinate. Yemo immediately thought about why Ningqingxue would grow this plant here. Was she a cultivator? But Yemo quickly realized that this newly germinated silver heart grass was actually from a seed that he had dropped before he collected the seeds. He didn't expect it to germinate. But how did Ningqingxue know this was silver heart grass and took it so seriously? Yemo was still musing when Sui explained. Ningqingxue seemed to really care about that small blade of grass in that flower pot, and even used things to cover it. She looked after it every day, and sometimes she would look at it the whole day and wouldn't get bored. Yesterday, she was still looking at the small grass in the flower pot when two men suddenly charged in from outside. They looked very ferocious. Looking at Yemo, who was still quietly listening to her, Sui continued. One man said that Qingxue stole his money and was hiding here growing flowers. That man took a wooden stick and was about to smash the flower from the pot. However, I really don't know what Ningqingxue was thinking at the time, but she used her body to block that wooden stick, and that stick directly hit her on the back. At that moment, she immediately spewed out a mouthful of blood on the flower pot and fainted. Yemo's face turned purple. He didn't know why Ningqingxue would care so much for that silver heart grass, but he was already furious. Did you find out who those men were? Yemo calmed down and asked. Sui shook her head and said, No, but Yemo, you need to be careful. After you had left, a lot of people came and asked about you. They even took the surveillance computer away. I don't think those are good people. You need to be careful when you come and go. When Sui spoke till now, Yemo was very clear. Those people that tried to take Qingxue away were definitely sent by the Song family to monitor him. Since they hadn't expected Ningqingxue to move over, they wanted to see if he would come and meet up with her. However, after waiting for some time for him to no avail, they decided to take Ningqingxue away. Then, the incident of Ningqingxue being hurt while trying to protect the grass occurred. Yemo was sure that the truth shouldn't be far off, but he was already sure that those who had hurt Ningqingxue were people of the Song family. The only thing he didn't understand was why she would risk her life to save this silver heart grass. The only explanation he could think of was that Ningqingxue knew that he needed this grass, so she cared for it and would even protect it at all costs. Although this was the easiest explanation he could think of, Yemo still believed this didn't make any sense at all because Ningqingxue had never been so nice to him, so she should be even less for some grass he might need. Yemo thought to himself. Song family, since you want to fight, then we'll fight. If I, Yemo, fear a mere Song family, then I wouldn't even need to cultivate. I might as well suicide and enter samsara. 1. Regardless of whether Ningqingxue did it for him or not, since she saved the silver heart grass, this incident was related to Yemo, so he should exact her revenge. Sui, I will visit Qingxue in the hospital, but don't tell her that I came here. Yemo bid Sui farewell and headed straight for the hospital. Although Sui didn't know why Yemo wouldn't let her say anything to Ningqingxue, she still agreed to his request because she knew that Ningqingxue didn't have much time left. Just when Yemo walked in front of the hospital, he saw a few doctors carrying Ningqingxue from a portable bed to a car. Yemo was stunned and wondered if was she changing hospital. However, his spirit sense scanned Qingxue's situation and immediately found out that her injuries were far more serious than he had imagined. Instantly, a killing intent rose up in Yemo's heart. Ningqingxue was beaten like this in his place, trying to protect the silver heart grass. He was not going to let the perpetrator go. Ningqingxue was carrying a case in her hands, which was the medical case he had wanted to take away. However, Yemo was astonished. Using his spirit sense to scan the case, he found 3 of the beads from the bracelet he had made for Su Jingwen. Why was this in Ningqingxue's hands? And why were there only 3? He sighed to himself. If Ningqingxue had these 3 beads on her wrist and not in the case, perhaps she would have been able to avoid the disaster. Yemo was just planning to secretly follow behind this ambulance, and just when the car left, he heard 2 nurses talking. This girl should be someone from a big family. Look, even the hospital director is running around. Yeah, I heard that she only has a month to live. This girl doesn't want to accept treatment and wants to go home. Although I can't understand, there didn't seem to be much difference living on the bed unable to move for a month or for a few years. Notes 1. Samsara is a Sanskrit word that means wandering, or world, with the connotation of cyclic, circuitous change. It also refers to the theory of rebirth and cyclicality of all life, matter, existence. A fundamental assumption of all Indian religions. Samsara is sometimes referred to with terms or phrases such as transmigration, karmic cycle, reincarnation, and cycle of aimless drifting, wandering or mundane existence. Source: Wikipedia. Chapter 69, Chi Masterp 1. Chapter 69, Chi Masterp 1. Yemo now understood that Ningqingxue was the one that wanted to go back, which made him wonder why she would choose something like that. However, since Ningqingxue was going back home, he was no longer in a hurry. When there were no one left during the night, he would sneak inside and help her once again by curing her injuries. As for whether he would take away that piece of silver heart grass, he still needed to think about it. Since he already knew that the ambulance was going to send Ningqingxue back, Yemo didn't follow it. Instead, he was wondering where he could find the people who made her on the verge of death. Although he knew it was definitely the Song family, Yemo didn't know where the Song family's current base was in Ninghai. Yemo found a clean restaurant and ate there. After the meal, just when Yemo walked out of the restaurant, he saw 3 people leave a star-rated restaurant, 2 men and 1 lady, and Yemo quickly recognized one of the men, Wang Ping. However, Yemo didn't care about Wang Ping at all. What interested him was the man beside him. He was around 40 years old. He had a medium build and a long face with a grass patch haircut and slightly bulging temples. Yemo could tell with one glance that this was a master. That man seemed to have sensed Yemo observing him. He actually raised his head and looked toward Yemo, who glanced away with the thought that this man was really powerful. He was sure that this man was even stronger than Wendong. And even if he might not be as strong as Yemo himself, he wasn't far off. This was Yemo's first time encountering such master, and immediately understood that it had been that man who cured Wang Ping's hand. Now, his spirit sense could scan up to an 8-meter radius around him, which was perfect for him as he wanted to know what these people were saying. Finally, Yemo stopped at a news agency not far away from where he could perfectly monitor those people without being caught out. I was really lucky to have Brother Hu last time, otherwise my hand still wouldn't be able to move now. I really feel ashamed to be unable to properly thank you this time for coming to help me. A voice that seemed to be Wang Ping's could be heard. Yemo had now the confirmation that this man really did cure Wang Ping's hand, which meant that this man was a Chi Master, and it was his first encounter with a Chi Master on Earth. Even Wendong, that he had met the last time, was only strong in brawling and assassination techniques, but she was far from being able to cultivate Qi. The middle-aged man waved his hand and said, "You are too polite, young Master Ping. Your father is also on young Master Tan's side, so this little gesture of help is nothing. However, just try not to go mess with those people selling fake medicine on the streets. There are some quite able men amongst them." "Yes, I will remember Brother Hu's teachings." I have to trouble Brother Hu to say hello to young Master Tan for my father, as it's a bit inconvenient for me to go over right now. Anyway, thank you, Brother Hu. Wang Peng's tone was very respectful. The middle-aged man waved his hand and entered the Audi. The car was started and left rapidly. Yemo didn't have the time to care about Wang Peng. He focused exclusively on this man that Wang Peng called Brother Hu. This was a master. Immediately, Yemo followed the car. After 20 minutes, the sky had already darkened, and the Audi finally reached a private mansion. Yemo scanned the mansion with his spirit sense and found cameras everywhere, but absolutely no way of getting in. After thinking for a while, Yemo still decided to come back during the night when he would be able to destroy all these cameras and find that Brother Hu more easily. The reason he wanted to find this man was that Yemo had no idea about the martial arts system here and wasn't sure to what state he had to cultivate to ensure his own safety. Even if he had to forcefully interrogate him, he would do so as to not be unprepared when he met a stronger master one day. Unfortunately, this time wasn't the most suitable as the sky was just beginning to turn dark. It was still early now, and he definitely had to help cure Ning Qingshue's wounds. It was just that it wasn't convenient now since there would definitely be someone beside her. It wouldn't be appropriate for him to go, however, when it was later in the night, he would go treat her and then return here. He wanted to go visit Shi Xiu at the Ninghai University, but after some thoughts, he gave up the idea. He was still weak now, and if the Song family somehow find out that he was related to Shi Xiu, they might try to harm him too. Yemo left Brother Hu's mansion and was preparing to go buy some things as he still had some money on him now. After he had finished treating Ning Qingxue, he decided that he would go to Luotsang and have a look. If possible, he would find a job there, but if things still wouldn't work out, he would go to Qi Wanqing's cousin's company. His idea was to find a place to rent, and once things were more stable, he would get the content of the soil to be analyzed and then plant a few seeds of the silver heart grass. After all, its growth period was very long. During this time, he also intended to go to the Taklamakan desert. He didn't want to wait until the silver heart grass was mature before leaving. That was wasting too much time. On this earth scarce of spirit chi, he really wouldn't know when he would be able to cultivate to a degree he wanted if he wasted time like that. Although it wasn't foreseeable how strong he would get if he continued like this, there was still hope if he tried, and if he didn't, there would be nothing but regret. Although Ning Qingxue also managed to grow a silver heart grass, she was able to give up her life for that barely germinated blade of grass. And even though Yemo didn't know why she would do something like that, he couldn't bear to think about it any further. It's really you. I finally found you. A voice broke Yemo's contemplation. Yemo turned around and found someone that he knew. That person seemed to be called Fang Weiqing, and he met him last time when he was practicing his martial arts in the Qingdu Lake Park. At that time, he had wanted to spar with Yemo but was defeated in only one move. Oh, it's you, Fang Weiqing. Yemo nodded. Fang Weiqing was quite straightforward. Fang Weiqing saw that Yemo still remembered his name, and immediately said in happy surprise, I didn't think you would still remember me. After that day, I had been waiting for you at the Qingdu Lake Park, but I never had been able to see you again. It's really lucky for me to see you here. Yemo smiled and said, You need something from me? Fang Weiqing rubbed his hands nervously. He knew that Yemo was quite strong. Even a few of him combined would be no match for Yemo. I was wondering if you had time for a chat. Fang Weiqing seemed very hopeful. Yemo thought that he still had some time now and didn't have a place to waste it on. Since Fang Weiqing had something, he might as well go see it. Therefore, Yemo nodded and said, Fine. Seeing that Yemo agreed, Fang Wei was elated. He hurriedly brought Yemo to a quiet Western restaurant. He didn't even ask if Yemo had been here and just ordered a few dishes. Although he hadn't eaten Western cuisine before, Yemo felt it was quite good. After eating a few mouthfuls, Yemo asked casually, What's up? If Fang Weiqing was going to ask him to become his master, then Yemo would refuse it without a second thought. He didn't have the time to be teaching disciples. Fang Weiqing saluted with his fists and said, I haven't asked for your honorable name yet. I'm called Shering. Yemo didn't want to reveal his real name in Ninghai. Besides, calling himself Shering had a few meanings. Firstly, it was that his master, or Shifu, was Luoying. Secondly, it was a homonym for seeing, which meant thinking of his master. Hearing Yemo's name, Fang Weiqing was amazed for a moment but soon recovered. In his opinion, this name was very feminine. However, of course, he wouldn't reveal his thoughts. He had come here today to ask Yemo for help. Notes: 1. Reminder. The qi cultivated in Yemo's previous world is the spirit qi, which is an energy from the surrounding environment and universe. It is a level higher than the qi which martial arts masters on Earth cultivated. To avoid any confusion, the qi which mortal martial arts masters cultivate is called qi instead of qi. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.